All right. And we are live. The last word, LordCognito, Ebontis, Ty Guy Travis, fresh on that Thursday evening Destiny campfire. We are back, y'all. Ebontis, the cheetah. Let's start with you. How you doing, sir?
Waiting to see if I'm gonna go on a cruise. Basically, I've got a cruise on Saturday, and I've been watching the hurricane. It seems to have left Florida, and I'm leaving out of Miami, but now it's like going into like South and North Carolina, and the flight that is coming to our airport to then take us to Miami comes right out of there. So depending on where it turns and goes, I have no idea. So hopefully we're in the Dallas area, so it's like American's hub. So hopefully they can just be like, here's another plane if there's an issue. But yeah, so I'm just kind of getting ready for that, prepping and packing and everything else. Other than that, yeah, Destiny is continuing to give us some fun stuff to talk about once again. But we will get to that here in a second. What about you, Travis? I know what you've been up to this week because I read it earlier.
That's right. Yeah, I finished my review of Grounded's 1.0 release. Grounded, a game I had not put a ton of time into when it was in early access. I played it a little when it came out 2 years ago, a little bit more a year ago, and I did a preview. But this is my first time diving fully in. I played over 100 hours. I gave it a 9, which means amazing at IGN.
Wow.
It was my third 9 at the company.
Woo.
Only given 3 9s. And it is a remarkably fun game. It is like so much fun.
So fun.
I have a weird relationship with survival games, which is that I don't really like a lot of them, but when I do like them, when I get bit by them, they are like my favorite game in the world is a survival game, technically. Minecraft is my favorite video game. And so when it hits right, it hits really right, and Grounded just does so many things right. It's got Obsidian's RPG systems behind, a classic survival system of mechanics, and then also just like the premise is amazing. Like, who hasn't want to be like a tiny shrunken kid in a backyard going on adventures and fighting giant bugs? And so it is like, even if it doesn't seem like your type of game, and especially if you played in preview and you weren't impressed as I was,
I know.
IGN gave it a 6, and I think that was actually probably a little higher than I would have rated it if I had reviewed it 2 years ago. Granted, I didn't play it as much as John Ryan, the reviewer, at the time, but I think I probably would have come in as like a 5 or something. It is remarkably good. They improved so much about it. It's so addictive. I played it with my fiance and some of our other friends who all had early access copies because they agreed to help me with it, and I hooked them up. And it was just like non-stop, dude. Like all weekend, all we did was just play 15-hour binges every day, and just like it was just so much fun. And it's also much bigger than you probably think it is. Like, it is so dense. Like, you have to play the game for a really long time to get to the ending, and it's just got so much in it, and I really cannot recommend it enough. So if you have a PC that can run it, or an Xbox, it's on Game Pass, and I couldn't recommend it more. Well, I could have given it a 10, but it has a lot of bugs. So I could have recommended it more, but don't. But yeah, it's really an amazing game, and everyone should play it.
Nice. What about you, Cog?
Yeah, I got to shout out Trial, man. I mean, the beginning of the week first, I was playing hardcore Destiny, a lot of Trials. I read through, I got the bow. Because I wanted to get
dude.
I got the kill clip moving target. So I'm like, you know what? I'm cool with that with my RNG. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? And then while I was there, I was like, well, I'm close to resetting my ranks. I might as well get it done while I was there. So I did that. So I had good time in freelance trial for the most part. Then it was was the rotator, I believe, of the raid rotator of the week last week.
Oh.
So the crew, shout out to the crew that's in there, and shout out to Ducky, shout out to everybody, man. That was rocking. They were like, yo, let's get collective obligation. So I'm like, all right, because once it's on a rotator, you can just farm.
Yep.
So this is the first time, I'm not going front, like, I sat there and I've been on this show and I've been like, yo, I don't mind if I don't get,
Oh, here we go.
Bro, the game, Destiny had a way of humbling me. I've seen this gun drop multiple times for other people. And it was getting so bad. We read it so many times. People were scared to say that they got it. They was like, oh no, it dropped for me again, Cog. I'm sorry. cool. We're running, so it's all right. So I'm at like run 20, and I'm like, all right, this ain't happening. This ain't happening, kind of thing. And then it was so funny. Shout out to everybody. Like it was DJ, the whole crew. They were like, one more, just one more. It's gonna happen. I can feel it. You know, that turns into like 3-4 hours. It still didn't happen. So now Collective Obligation joins the 1K Voices Club of no matter how many times I've run it, I see this thing drop for everybody else except me. So that's where I'm at with it right now. So I've been doing that, and then shout out to you, Trav. Yeah, Grounded. I was prior to that, I was playing Deathloop and splitting time between Deathloop and splitting time between Cyberpunk because I'm in my Cyberpunk Edge Runners, kind of mix with the anime and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna play an hour Grounded, and then bruh, Trav. 1 hour turned to an all-nighter. I'm out here making canteens. I'm out here going to the other side, investigating bases. The game is so addictive. And then like the sense of mystery and just at night, and it has a little horror vibe to it. I'm over here trying to antagonize fireflies, and they setting it on me. I'm just learning so much about it, so much depth to it. And the thing for me is I don't like survival games at all. And this game has a great way of holding your hand just enough to help you through and realize what the basics are. I don't want to go on too long, but Trevor, review. You were actually the inspiration for me to play it because you were like, no, Cog, this thing has a narrative. I was like, okay, all right, bro. 1 hour.
NPCs. Yeah, dude. It like I think the reason it works for a lot of people is that it is a survival game in name, but it really is an Obsidian RPG. Like buried underneath all that, and it has so many like every time you're like, oh, I leveled up, I got my armor like fully advanced, and then they're like, here's level 2
weird science
in tier 2, yeah, and you're just like, what? Like, there's just so much in the game. I bet you haven't even gotten to the dungeons yet. There's dungeons with bosses and like loot, and like, dude, when you get to that part, you're gonna be like, wait, is this like an RPG adventure game too? Like what the it's just crazy how much they put in it, man. It's just crazy.
Yeah, shout out to you, man. You're the inspiration for it. I literally
play it with friends.
That's what I have to do next. Yeah, play it with next.
Yeah. Because like building a fort with your friends and then going, okay, we all got our equipment. Let's go into this anthill and just like fight things. Like it's just so much fun, dude. So
yes, it's cool, man. I'm definitely gonna do that. I'm sorry, we're going long, but I had to talk about everything that's going on with me. What's going on with you?
You're good. I mean, for me, besides worrying about a cruise, I played a buttload of Trials over the weekend.
Nice.
I reset my rank.
I didn't play. How am I the only one on the show that didn't play Trials?
It's
this
freelance, and it was double boost. And I literally made a video where I was like, boost. You should play like double now. Boost, please go in there, even if you're mediocre, because we'll get into this because we have a very PvP centric guest here. But freelance should freaking be permanent. You can throw the flawless pool out the window. I don't care about the flawless pool, but freelance, I will play every weekend if it sits there because I can jump in, play some matches, and I know when I go check the roster, it's not going to be a 3-stack, so I'm not just like instantly defeated. I've beat 3 stacks like enough times. I can probably count on one hand. Like a few times it has happened. Like the people I've paired up with are somehow good, and maybe that group of friends isn't that great, and it's like that's happened once or twice, but it's so rare when I see the 3-stack. It's just like morally defeating. But yeah, when it's freelance, I'm like, hey, I'm going to give it a go. Sometimes I get smoked, and other times I'm like, all right, here we go. This is fun. And yeah, it's like, and then there's the moments where you're down to like 3-0 and then come back. And yeah, so I think I went through full Prestige 1 and I was on like Fabled 1. So I was up to like 3 or 4K again. I just got my card to 7 and it just played everything there.
Everything. Yeah,
so once I got to 7, so I was just getting the most rep I could on the Passage of Wealth.
I know our guest is very patient, but I had to say, I didn't even realize just casually playing. I'm like, yo, I got 6 wins. Yeah. We didn't lose yet.
Oh,
and then we lost 2 times in a row. I was like, so close to the the freelance lighthouse.
I have definitely not done that yet.
I was like, yo, it's never happened. And I was like, wait a minute, how many wins do I got? Okay. But anyway, enough about us.
You've been to the White House in general, though, right?
I don't know if I've been in D2. I don't actually know.
Why don't we take you? We should.
It's like at some point we should. Yeah, this coming weekend's probably not the best, but soon.
Why don't y'all take me?
I've taken you, Cog.
You did?
Wasn't your first time in D2 with me? Yeah, you and I played with one of my guys from
No, that was Addict. That was Addict. I was supposed to be in that one. I was
No,
supposed to
I
be
did
that
it
one.
with you first. I did it with you first,
Really?
and then you told me because remember you said the carry was real. I just remember you being like, "Oh yeah, the backpack had room. It was
Yes.
as advertised."
No. You are
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
You are right. Yes.
yeah. And then
So I
you
went
told,
twice. I went twice. Yes.
yeah, and then you told me to do it with Addict, and I did it with him
Yes.
too.
Okay.
Correct. You are
Well,
correct.
for our guest's sake, I will work on moving us forward in the
Yeah, we gotta
show
move
here.
forward.
Sorry.
This guy's been
Sorry.
very
I'm on a
patient.
bit of a time schedule tonight. So,
Yes.
welcome to the Last Word episode number 217. This week, War Priest, Scallywag, and seasonal challenges started to test the patience of many players. Ryan Reynolds broke nerd brains this week, and the times of Stadia are inevitably coming to an end. But tonight, we are joined by a guest who, like many, started his gaming and shooter ways with good old Halo. To balance out the FPS games, he also enjoys RTS. The nuance and details of strategy are something that shows you how his brain may work a little different than other people's. Halo love led right into Destiny addiction, but if you spend any time with this man's Microsoft Paint focused YouTube videos, you'll know he really does enjoy the nitty-gritty numbers and cones of this crazy game we all love. We all think we know how to craft a weapon, but after watching our guest tell me I crafted it wrong and then explain reason, details, examples, it's really hard to argue with him. So honestly, yeah, just go watch his videos. While his ISP caused some streaming issues in the past, this man still achieved Twitch partner, grew a fantastic Discord community, and his young YouTube channel has already blown past 10,000 subs. So let's welcome a man who actually enjoys skill-based matchmaking and good matches, hates bows with an absolute passion, and has smartly co-created the term Zone of Stupidity. He is part of NOLA Flight, goes unexpectedly hard for Waffle House, and has a dog who poses for some adorable photos. A Warlock main who might be one of the most OP Shadebinders in all of Crucible, and enjoys going off meta to find new ways to win. The one, the only, Gleaux. How you doing, sir?
That was quite a flattering introduction. Thank you so much.
That's why we're here. See if we can get you to blush before we even get you to start talking.
Yeah, I'm doing well, man. I've been deep in the grind this past week, and just enjoying making content and being free to do so from the ISP woes.
Which ISP were you fighting with? Because
Yeah, what you fighting with?
Oh god, man. I was trapped by Cox for about 2 years.
See, I'm Spectrum, and I
No-
always forget the connection. I don't think those are the same, but they both suck. So
I literally was monopolized, so like there were no options. My girlfriend and I moved across
Break up
the
the
city
monopolies.
just to be able to get a different option. So
Power to the people.
yeah,
No, I'm with you, but I've been in that situation before. It is the worst when you have no option. Ugh. You're just at the mercy of that whack ISP.
it's incredibly frustrating because you see promise with Twitch and with YouTube. Like I could see the potential was there for me if I could just be consistent.
Mhm.
Fighting that's rough.
No, I hear you, brother. We all empathize.
like I went
What a
through
s-
my streaming woes of trying to make sure this podcast didn't like die midstream when for a good while there was like 6 months I had techs come out to my house like 6 times, and then I figured out recently I'm in this like void of like 2-minute walking distance. There's fiber all around me, and I'm on
Oh,
like
no.
cable, so I'm like, all right, I don't know who I have to harass, but I was like the ball has started rolling. So I have a ticket in to get work on getting fiber, so it's hopefully like my year-end goal that I can get that switch done because it's cheaper and faster. So I'm like, yeah. So yeah,
Well, I am praying for you, man, because it has been life changing.
believe it.
Yes, absolutely. So we're real quick. Want to jump into the history from the gaming standpoint. Obviously, a lot of our Destiny brethren also came from Halo, so we like that connection. I wanted to ask you about that, but also wanted to ask you about the RTS because I'm kind of like Terra base and RTS a little bit. So I want to start with first Halo and then the RTS love. How did those kind of start for you?
Yeah, I think as I kind of described, Halo was my stepsister at the time's boyfriend just came over with an Xbox one day and was like, "Hey, you want to see this game I have?" It's like, "Yeah, sure." I was like maybe 8 or 9, I don't know, and he showed me Halo CE, and we sat down and played the campaign, and it was just revolutionary, man. I think Halo CE was really ahead of its time. And as a kid who's only real gaming experiences before that were like, I don't know, Mario Party, Mario Kart, like hadn't really delved too deep into it. And then shooting aliens in Halo CE was like, man, just revelationary,
Yeah.
And then that kind of like ignited my love for Halo and for FPS games in general, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And then the RTS component, like how did that start? I'm just curious.
Halo
man, I
Wars.
don't even really know.
What if it was also Halo?
What if it's a Halo War?
Halo,
Yeah.
Halo.
I did play Halo Wars. I was excited for that game.
Nice.
But
makes
the way
sense.
I think it started was I just had like this old rusty computer at my grandparents' house that really couldn't run anything other than, you know, really not graphically intensive games. I had a pirated copy of Civilization 2 that I think I started playing first. And it took, you know, minutes for turns to process, and I still sat there and like played games through, man, because it was like it was just addictive, you know. But I think that I like that game for the same reason I liked playing multiplayer FPSs, is because it's very, you know, at some level like kind of analytical. Yeah, there's a lot of strategy involved. I've always liked that aspect of the game more than like the mechanical shooting or like, you know, the actual aiming side of it, I guess.
Is it more like the tactical and the strategy layer aspect as well? That really kind of brings you in, that kind of entices you?
Yeah, I mean that's something I think my team in Destiny really enjoys as well, is analyzing gameplay. We try to win without like individual gun skill. Like obviously, like we aren't bad aimers. We practice it, but we try to outthink our opponents, and I think that's why we see the success we see, is because we're not necessarily like fantastic individual players. I think we're definitely like greater than the sum of our parts as a unit, you know.
I feel you. Trav, we got some questions for the amazing Gleaux.
Yeah, of course. First, I was just going to say, like, totally agree on Combat Evolved. Something that still amazes me, I talk about this whenever I talk about shooter games, like in reviews or whatever, is Combat Evolved is still kind of the gold standard for enemy AI in shooters.
Yo, I just
Still,
talked about that. Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of crazy. Like, every shooter has worse AI than Combat Evolved, including Destiny, which
That game is genuinely difficult.
It's super difficult, and the way that like the enemies respond to you, especially in Legendary, where like they dive out of the way and they throw grenades and they know when to return fire and back up and press the attack. It's just like whoever worked on that sandbox or that AI should just like reveal to the world what they did, because we need that. Like, how the heck did gaming not evolve in that one specific area, even though that it's just it baffles my mind. Like, how many games just have terrible AI?
So
I think
true.
that
Practically
AI
all of
designers,
them. Yeah.
I think that AI designers have actually walked back from that difficulty with intentionality, because Bungie gave a talk at GDC, I don't know, a few years ago, where they talked about how the AI intrinsically, the way it's designed, is actually on par with that and is extremely difficult. And they walk it back because it wouldn't be fun to have a Vandal immediately headshot the player every 5 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the enemies are actually programmed to be bad, because otherwise it wouldn't be a good experience for the player.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even that they're good. It's just that they respond to what you do in a way that other shooters
It's like
don't.
realistic
and that is like,
reactions are hard to.
yeah, because like there's I read this this article about the philosophy of like game design, where it was talking about like tricks that they do. Like, one of the tricks is, in a lot of shooters, anytime you get shot at by an enemy, they will always guarantee to miss the first time they shoot at you, to give you a chance to respond. And like one of the games that does that is like BioShock, and I think Halo might do that in some of its games too. Where like
the
it shoots
Stormtrooper aim.
Yeah, they have the Stormtrooper aim just for the first shot. Just for the first shot, to kind of like, it's like almost like a warning shot to get the player's attention that they're in a combat encounter, right? I think stuff like that is smart. I don't think you need to make it the smartest in the world or the hardest in the world. Like, they don't have to have perfect aim, but they should at least feel like they're playing with the player, like that they have a little bit of back and forth. And I just feel like so many games get nowhere close to that, and it's crazy to me. So anyway, I just want to say my love of Combat Evolved's AI is still, I mean, it still blows my mind that it was as good as it was. I wanted to ask about your character class.
Yes, let's talk.
What do you repping these days?
I'm pretty much always the Shadebinder main.
What class is that? What class?
Warlock.
Okay. The thinking man's class. Okay. Now, what kind of just drew you to the Warlock class? You know,
I'm sensing that I'm walking into a landmine here. I don't know where it's at, but
don't worry about these two titans next to you. You amongst family.
Okay.
Yeah, these two crayon eaters over here. So yeah.
I knew there was something going on.
I was doing a little bit of research for the show, watching a video, and there was Titan slander in the video, and I was like, Oh, it's there. Okay.
gonna be-
All right. Yep.
Yeah.
You're a man of culture.
It's all right.
made
He
you
shut-
make this informed, refined decision of being a warlock.
Well, you see, part of choosing a warlock is accepting that the game is played on an intellectual level. It's not about just running and punching people.
What I'm talking about is my
I know
guy, man.
Titans wouldn't get that, but it's
I'm with you, brother. I'm so with you, man. Was
Yeah,
it like, for me?
Yeah, you're right. It's not about punching people. It's about healing yourself because you aren't good. That's what the game's about.
I think that honestly, like there are different types of Titans, and only certain ones of them frustrate me because there are like I'm gonna run at you and shoulder charge, and like I don't really care if I kill you. I just want to do a
Just
trade.
things. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. On the other hand, like you have the Titans who like I guess like Nom 3 and Cool Cheese are good examples of like real tacticians who use their abilities to draw aggro from the enemies like you would expect a Titan to, and are able to move the battlefield in ways that I think is really impressive.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Controlling
No.
the battlefield.
So now I got to get to the nitty gritty though. Like right now, obviously we've had the 3.0s. They've dropped, right? A lot of from a survivability standpoint, solar is really strong for us. Like I know you shade binding out here crazy.
Like, and he
doing
says,
your
I don't
thing.
need any of that.
You know what I'm saying? You doing your thing as a shade binder. So I guess my question is order of ranking. Is it shade binder? Is it stasis? And then what falls into? Because for me right now, when it's high level content, obviously I'm hitting solar. Stasis is the most fun for me. But I actually think like Void 3.0 is just so criminally underrated as a warlock. So I'm curious as a warlock being which of the subclasses that you really.
Are we talking PvP, PvE, the whole
Let's do
game?
let's do PvE first. Let's do PvE,
PvE
first.
first.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Well of Radiance is kind of overpowered even in its nerf state, and I think it'll always be the top dog until that changes.
Mhm.
Second, I think is probably Shadebinder just because of access to like Font of Might and Adept Reeds Regret is extremely strong in the current PvE meta. Chill Clip Rockets is pretty underrated if you haven't heard about that yet. So yeah, I think Shadebinder is probably second, and then
Okay. What's third? When you freestyle, when you switching it up.
it's got to be Void, right? Because Arc is terrible.
Okay. I feel that. And then PvP, obviously shaped by that. That's where it is. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't even play the other ones in PvP. So.
He's like, what are those?
When Solar 3.0, excuse me, when Solar 3.0 came out, I literally did not play it at all.
Really?
I haven't touched Arc 3.0 either. Really, I used the melee once in PvE, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go back to Shadebinder.
Oh, you wasn't even dipping and dodging as a solar with your little movement? No movement.
I'm a real creature of habit. I like to find a playstyle that I identify with, and then I play it for 5,000 hours. I don't
7,000 hours. It's 7,000.
7,000. Yeah. Let's get it right. Yeah. That's just how I operate, though. I take hold of a playstyle, and I like to truly master it before I move on to something else, or if I ever do.
I will say I can't remember which one of our guests mentioned it, and then I watched you do it in a clip as well, or at least just Shadebinder. Playing enough Trials over the weekend, I ran into the very smart warlocks who look at their radar and drop the rift that will freeze you right when you get close. Man, that will piss you right off. You're like, all right, so I don't have a whole lot, but I got to push in on this guy, and then it's just like,
that's kind of like why
it
I
works,
like
man.
Shadebinder.
It works.
It's a great
strong
defensive move.
utility, but it's also kind of like psychological warfare, right? Like, because getting frozen really does tilt you. Like, it's extremely tilting, and I think that's part of why it's so strong. Is because not only am I going to freeze you and kill you, but now you're also tilted, and like that's more of an advantage for me.
Yeah.
What you got for the man? Otherwise, I'd warlock this whole podcast.
It's like honestly. Just because you are such a crew, we can't go Warlock all night. Sorry, it ain't gonna happen. Before we get into PvP or PvE and patches and things of that nature, this guy and some of us who weren't playing 100 hours, but that's totally fair to do a review. Trials this weekend, especially playing freelance. We have a long-running segment on this show, and the show is Let's Help Ebontis. This guy. Be better at PvP. And throwing myself under the bus for this one so Travis can continue his multitasking over there. Yeah. No, but the idea is Trials Freelance is a unique little animal because you can go be in Control or Mayhem or whatever, or even Rumble's like actually a pretty good one that people should play. But Trials Freelance, I wanted to see if you have a couple of good tips, thought process you go through as a freelance situation, because playing as a team is important, but you're not set up to talk to them and you're not kind of loaded out to be, synergized with your teammates or anything. I wanted to see what your tips would be, how you can be the best teammate in freelance, or, whether it's class, whether it's loadout options, whether it's just like maybe adapting to the situation, having different stuff with you. How can you be the best teammate in freelance? And that's what I was kind of curious. So what tips you could give Struggle Bus over here like me?
I actually play a lot of freelance to start. I guess one of the things that I like to do in lobbies is, and I think this is what determines if you win or lose, it's how quickly you can accurately assess the lobby. And what I mean by that is, who are the good players? What is the cheesy stuff that's being used? Who are the bad players? Are they on your team? Who is, do you need to play a support role? Is it up to you to frag or you lose? Trying to figure out those conditions is what determines whether or not you win or lose the game more than any individual performance. So if I know that I'm the best player on my team, I take it upon myself to beat the shit out of my teammates, and I don't feel bad about it at all. And what I mean by that is literally I will stand behind one of my blueberries and wait for him to start taking damage before I slide out and kill the guy that's damaging him.
Because we got some of the thought process so crazy. Yeah.
Because I know at that point, either A, he's put in damage, which doesn't always happen, but wishful thinking, or B, the other guy is shooting at him and won't be shooting at me, which means that I should probably survive that fight. And I now have the Shadebinder kit to win the remaining 1v2 because, teammates are teammates sometimes.
Travis got questions. Travis, like you had questions about his thought process. I want to jump in on that.
Not really. I
mean,
okay.
You have to
figure out who on your teammate's going to be the sacrificial lamb and go from there.
And it might be you. It might be you. There are games where I am in the freelance lobby and I am the weak link. And at that point, I know it's my job to be the one that slides out and get baited. So it's you have to make that read quickly because it determines your ultimate success in the game.
No, Gleaux, you on fire. I mean, literally, I've never heard someone verbalize my thought process in PvP, especially Trials. That's literally how I play. I start the match and I just try to be as objective as possible with the first 2 rounds, how they went, right? So I'm like, okay, clearly, I start looking at usernames. All right, this guy, okay, cool. He's definitely the good player here. Either stay behind or I'm looking at who's getting picked first. And sometimes I'm like, yo, I'm going to stay next to you because clearly you can get your head pitched, and I need to know what you're doing so I can either jump in front or so on and so forth. And then other times I'm like, man, I'm with 2 stallions. Like don't get picked. Be smart. Don't over challenge. Just be smart. Throw down, some riffs or support thing or team shoot and stuff like that. And then a couple times I've noticed I've been like way too passive, and I'm playing with like some real bulldogs and going aggressive. And then sometimes I get left behind, and then things happen, and it kind of goes to the detriment of the team. So it's funny you say that. It's like reading the situation and really paying attention to your teammates and how they react really actually helped my playstyle a bit. I was like, that's really, really cool. Good advice.
If you watch good teams play Trials, a lot of like the quote unquote communication that they're doing is nonverbal. And that's why you see great teams who aren't necessarily screaming callouts at one another. They're just looking at their radar. They're looking at each other's positions on the map. They're looking at the enemy positions on the map. And when you learn that skill set and you're able to like analyze the game state, you can start applying those kinds of things to freelance as well. And you don't need your teammates to tell you what they're doing because you're able to read the map.
I will say though, totally agree. But to E's point, when freelance is not there, and then you face that 3-stack, you can tell the call outs in communication are so sharp. Because I'm like, how they got to me so fast? How do they know? That kind of thing. And it's such a difference.
When you can see the symphony of another team that's like put together and somebody gets a pick over here, and then all of a sudden the flanks, it's literally like Jurassic Park, and he's like, clever girl, because it's like you're looking at you're trying to dodge a sniper, and then you're looking down a lane too much, and then all of a sudden you get flanked. And you can tell just like, and it's so fast, some of the ones that do. And that's one thing I will say too, because I got to play, I can't even remember who I was playing with. It was Ares and somebody else. The speed of which high level skill can move.
Yes.
like the ground they cover, whether it's the exotics or just the, you know, the dodges and things, but knowing probably the absolute optimal path to go through a certain area. If there's an opening, they're dashing through it to make sure they're not like possible target or anything. Just the movement is crucial because it's always getting the, you know, get to your lane, get the position first. Obviously you have those first pieces to it, but yeah, when you're like, because that's the thing for me, when I'm sitting back and I'm like, I'm trying to do what you're doing, but I'm not at like the skill level. So I'm trying to like, first I want to see, it's like, do these two people go in the same direction? Because if you start a lobby and they split and I'm like, oh God, okay. Then you got to see, does one of them get picked to figure out which lane are they looking at maybe as a group? Does somebody have a good snipe? Is somebody killing me with Lame Monarch? Is it one of those, all of those things? Yeah, if you start getting tagged by a bow, you're like, oh, okay, we have a good bow user. This is trouble. But yeah, those first 2 rounds can do a lot, because I have noticed a couple times it's really fun to kind of watch the team that you're with on freelance get crushed in the first couple of rounds, and all of a sudden, for some reason, we're like, all right, let's wake up. And then it starts to like turn, and you really start to push back on them, and you're like, okay, so we're gonna switch. Okay, there's sometimes I want to scream, because there's like the one every so often the same 2 will like go down the same lane. I'm like, you know, we could challenge their like perfect little setup they have here if we just tried the other direction for a minute. And then if they don't go, we end up losing. But if we do and it starts to flip, that's when it gets really fun. So it's like, I really do enjoy freelance trials when I get a chance to play a pretty good amount. It's just, when it's not there, man, it is just painful.
Some games are definitely just frustrating. And something I talk to my chat and my community about all the time is learning to discern the difference between things that are like controllable, things that are a result of your own misplays or your own performance, and what is just destiny. You know, what is out of your control. Because to me, that's how you regulate your tilt and make sure that you're not like, you know, being too hard on yourself for something that you literally had no control over. If some guy teleports into you and does the new Arc Warlock melee and it kills you because you were close to a wall, like probably nothing you could do there. You know, and maybe your positioning could have been a little bit better, but that you can eliminate those things by looking at film. And I encourage my community to do that a lot, because it's something that helps you learn what is your fault versus just, you know, destiny bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, it's like those moments where it's like, oh, why did I get killed? And I'm like, I'm standing in the middle of an open field. Of course I'm gonna get killed. I'm like, that's one of those. I'm like, all right, let's you know, play a little bit more corners more, as opposed to why did I die there? It's like, those are the moments. And somebody in chat's even like, I didn't realize I was a PvP enthusiast. Destiny you should never take too seriously, first off. Because everybody's like, is it balanced? Is it not? It's like, it's in a reasonable state at this point. Every subclass has its ups and downs. But like, if you can not take it too serious and just like try and think like, why did I die there? Is that team amazing? Or was I standing in the middle of an open field and somebody sniped me? Because it's not hard to do. Like, there's a very big discrepancy there. So if you can think about what you may have done wrong or what worked, it's actually, you know, you can learn from it. So
I get more frustrated at the times where I make the dumb play than I do the times where like I just get shit on by destiny. Like, because I know it's something that's in my control, and like ultimately I am actively trying to get better at, you know?
No, absolutely. I was going to ask you quickly about like just loadouts. And what I was noticing, there were a couple loadouts that I never really had to be challenged against that would really give me some problems. And I really started facing some really dominant Forerunner users. And I'm like, I don't know how to handle this. Like, because I was winning most of my exchanges, and I know when to get out of it if someone had to drop on me first during the initial exchange. But like from long range. But yeah, I was just like, man, I cannot challenge that good. Like, is there certain loadouts right now that you have seen right now that you're like, well, these are really top tier, these are really tough in the hands of a good player?
A bow.
Yeah, bows. Yeah. I think Monarch is top tier in the hands of any player. Doesn't need to be a particularly good one. As far as like Forerunner, I do think Forerunner is a really strong loadout, and I've heard people call it overpowered. I don't think it is.
Tell me how
I
to stop
think. So the way I normally combat Forerunner, if I run into it in trials or freelance, is you have limited amounts of ammo, right? So being disciplined in your peek shooting goes a long way, because if you're a hand cannon user or a pulse rifle user, you can peek out, take a burst, take a shot. They probably spam 2 at you. Even if they hit you, you go back behind cover. They only spawn with 6 bullets, 7 bullets, something like that. I count the damn thing. I count how many bullets they have. I think it's worth doing, because, you know, as soon as they're out of ammo, they're now just sitting on a primary weapon, and it's usually an SMG or perhaps Drang. So either way, you have like a range advantage on them, right? To me, that's how you fight it. You can't get caught out in cover, but I mean, you can't get caught out of cover by a messenger by a no time. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's no different than those weapons. I think it just takes a little bit more discipline peak shooting.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Good advice. Good advice. What else we got
Count
for the man?
cards. That's what he says. This is advice.
What about you, Travis? What are your what is your any questions so we can help this man in PvP? This man.
Oh, is you? My questions? I guess my question, since you're a Shadebinder Warlock, is how dare you?
You in my 154
you,
Steam
sir.
comments also say that. So
You know what? I'm gonna use Le Monarch extra hard because of that. And I am a Le Monarch Titan user, okay?
Oh man.
I put up barricades, I control the battlefield, and then right when they don't expect to get hit with Le Monarch, I hit them with it, and they are effed. And that's how I play Crucible. So you know what? Just because of that, I'm gonna put Le Monarch on. Maybe I'll buy a new skin for it. Who knows? Who knows?
He's going
on
extra
the
hard.
edge.
Extra hard on
Yeah.
the Monarch.
Extra hard. You definitely go extra
Solid
hard.
month on Twitter arguing with Mercules about whether or not Monarch was balanced before he got hired by Bungie. So
Oh yeah, what was that exchange like? What's Burke saying? We had a boy. What's he saying?
I mean, I think Merc ultimately, prior to getting hired by Bungie, was more in it for the laughs on Twitter than he was like rational debate. I think I was kind of similar at the time, so it was more just good natured back and forth.
Yeah, okay. I got you. What do you feel strongly right now? The most strongest against in PvP right now? What are you not feeling that needs to change? We had some strong thoughts about maybe competitive playlists and ranking systems and stuff, but just overall, what's your strongest feel it takes on PvP in the Destiny sandbox?
I think there needs to be some sort of motivation for high-end PvP that isn't loot-based. I think that's my biggest criticism of the system at whole. And by that I mean,
what, Travis?
Right now, I feel like where do you go to play against other good players in PvP right now? Because for me, it's control.
Speaking to Travis right now. Okay.
Like apparently control, because skill-based matchmaking is not even in trials.
Because I go to trials and I lose maybe 5 games a weekend if I'm playing with my team, if that. I go to the survival playlist, no one queues it. When I match other teams, they leave. When I play Rumble, it is not skill-based matchmaking. There are 2 good players in the lobby, and you just race to farm the other 4. So where do you go to play good players right now? Control? Private matches? That's not sustainable, in my opinion.
Halo.
I would like to see... Yeah, Halo.
No one's playing that game either.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I do think the
Just
answer
the good
is there
players.
needs to be
There's
some
just
sort
not
of
that
ranked
many of them.
playlist. Yeah. It's literally the pros left. A ranked playlist is, I guess, the TLDR. We need some sort of place for good players to go.
So our hope, next season they've teased that, right? Season 19, some type of comp survival glory.
I don't know
rework.
that that's true.
I remember seeing that somewhere. I feel like, yeah.
The exact wordage you saw was a glory rework. It was not a ranked playlist, because I see this.
No, I
talked about on Twitter all the time.
Exactly. Yes, like if it's not guaranteed, but like if they rework glory, if it's not like, I think I was listening to you on a Massive Breakdown, and you were just like, I want to see the number go up or go down, like depending on, and if you're up at the top, not everyone should be up at the top or be able to get up there. Like I remember I was listening to you talk about that because I was kind of curious where you stood. That's why I was like, we'll get to SPMM here in a minute. But if they rework glory and they don't do something in the realm of a ranked playlist, I feel like that's just going to go over so poorly. Is there anything else Is there anything else you think that it could be? Like,
I would not be shocked if they just put glory in Rumble or like some absurd
they add a couple modes.
It wouldn't surprise me.
No,
you know what I mean,
you're not wrong. It's like
a bar is so low, we ain't got no faith.
But I was like, I think every Crucible player we have on here, whether they like skill-based matchmaking or not, which we'll get to in a second, because I can't wait to see Travis's face light up. But I think every single person that we've asked has been like a ranked playlist, a ladder system, a ranked playlist. Like, I've never heard more common feedback except for, a couple random things where they just, Bungie makes, where almost the whole community thinks it's a bad decision. But like, the ranked playlist is really common feedback. So if they don't, man, that's just going to be So sad. Because
By the
that's
way,
exactly
They're
it
hesitant because they think they failed with the original launch of the 5500 system back in Forsaken. But I think that system was not correct.
Yeah.
You had the success tied to loot, which was objectively better than the rest of the meta at the time. You also had a cap on the ranking system. So once people got to 5500, they gate kept other people from climbing as well without having. So you should just not have a cap on the ranking system. I think that was a failure, and I think Bungie is hesitant because of that and the feedback that they received through that system.
All right. Well, different question.
By the way, I just want to say before you move on, that competitive playlist was not always a popular opinion. It is like
the ranked, like the ranked ladder or whatever.
The ranked ladder playlist has not always been a popular opinion in Destiny. I feel like it's grown in like the last 6 to 9 months, but like when we first started talking about it, we had some people on the show where they were like, why would you ever put that in the game? I think Paul Tassi said that, didn't he? Wasn't Paul Tassi like, who's gonna come and play that, who wants to get sweatier in Destiny or something like that? I feel like it's, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of and it might have something to do with the fact that Trials is no longer competitive, right? It's competitive, but it's a microcosm of competitive sandbox. It's not really.
It's not a ranked. I mean, I think last week I think Cog, you said it's like they need a place to flex. Like the PvP players, if they get that Onyx, they get that top ranking. Who's going to be the #1 player in Destiny right now, and who's going to be like 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they're like duking it out, and you see that list like changing up and down. Like that's going to be something people go for. So I mean, it's like that's one of those. I do think, as you said, I mean, Trials is. What was it? True Vanguard did this like 40-minute video over the idea of like, have they been casualizing Destiny more and more? Because now it's like you can just put in time in Trials, and that's like I'm guilty of it, but it's like I put my time and I go through, and I had 20 Engrams this weekend, and I was just trying to get rolls on the boat. Did I get adept loot? No, but am I too worried about adept? No. But yeah, as you
For the record, I'm okay with that. I think that's how it should be. Like I think Trials should be something that you can brute force by time, like because it's a loot playlist.
Yep.
If there's loot tied behind this thing, then every player should have access to it. I don't think there's any reason to gatekeep players from loot. But if you have a ranked playlist, ideally there is no loot tied behind it, and there is no reason to make sure that every player has access to this high level title or whatever the hell it ends up manifesting as.
Yeah, would you want that? Like, I mean, are you okay with like showering that playlist with cosmetics, just like all the cosmetics possible?
You just need to give me an emblem and put a number on it, and let me make my number bigger than someone else's. That's literally all I want. It doesn't need like this whole convoluted system. I literally just want, whenever I join up with Drew for the day to play Trials, I want my number to be bigger than his so I can shit talk him about it. That's literally all I want. Like
there you go. So what modes would you like to see in this competitive ranked like what modes would you like to see in there, either what we have or maybe something we don't have? What do you think fits that playlist?
I think you would like objective based gameplay. I think Rift in its current state is not terrible for something like that. If you make the playlist like 4v4, maybe decrease the spawn timers on Rift a little bit, I think Rift would fit it. Zone control would be really good as well. I wouldn't mind like some kind of Slayer game mode as well, maybe just Clash. But I think you want to look to like CDL game modes, the Halo HDS game modes for inspiration. Just tried and true competitive FPS game modes. I don't think there's any reason to get fancy or try to Destiny it. Like let's capture the flag, stuff like just tried and true FPS game modes. I think would be pretty good staples there.
Interesting. Respect it.
I feel like I interrupt Cog. Did you have a question, or am I just taking all your fun?
No. You guys hit it. You guys asked the guys. That's literally what I was going to ask him, how I felt about all those things. And now just, I guess my main thing was just like next season, the vibe I'm getting from Gleaux is like, he is setting expectations. I had my expectation really high for the competitive aspect of Destiny for next season. And now you're bringing me down a notch, man. You're taking my enthusiasm away, Gleaux. Like they not going to do too much. What are you hearing, man?
I think the chances of a ranked playlist appearing next season is close to 0. I would look for Glory to be reworked in some manner, whether it's the cap being removed or it going back to Glory-based matchmaking. I think they're going to keep the Glory system and just rework it in some way. There's no way that they're going to drop a competitive rework in a season. If we were going to see some sort of ranked playlist, it's going to happen in Nightfall or in the future. Yeah.
So what about this? Let me get some hope here. So what about like this will be the foundational bridge to perhaps that big expansion rework. So this is that that step where it's like, okay, we're looking at it. We're going to make these little changes because to your point, there's not generally a lot they can usually do with the live team per se in a seasonal format. So I do understand your logic there. That it does make sense. So I'm just hoping that it's not like, okay, we threw this cracker at you and now we're not talking to the PvP community for the rest of the whatever. Like Nightfall, I would love to see that same bullet point energy the way they do for every new feature when an expansion happens. New raid, new this. I would like to see PvP rework, rank system. That's the dream. That's what I'm hoping for. And maybe it does happen for Nightfall, the bigger picture.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like I'm a bit cynical on the topic, but I
noticed.
But I mean, it's fair. I
don't think it's unwarranted at this stage.
No, I mean, honestly, until they prove us otherwise, it's fair to not expect too much. I could be talking to somebody in my Discord about, hey, here's this idea for whatever, and it's like I got to kind of bring them back to earth. I'm like, you got to think about what we got. We got to think about Bungie's history. We got to think about the systems we do have to work within. And it's like sometimes you do have to wonder. It's like the expansions, maybe something bigger comes, and maybe this is like testing the glory, and then maybe they do a ladder because that's the thing. I think I even made a video because I was just speculating about why does the survival playlist even exist, because I'm sitting there playing freelance all weekend. But the idea is like because we've talked about it before, like combining a lot of the playlist into like a Valor playlist is the best name I could come up for it, where it was like where you have, Rumble sometimes, and then you have like a lot of those different ones and you rotate through different modes. So the pool's bigger there. And then you could have, if they ever do the big comp rework, like a ranked thing, that could be there. Like Valor, Glory, Trials, and Iron Banner. Like 4 nodes. Those are only up so often. But I mean, take the casuals in there. And I didn't want to call it the casual playlist because that sounds mean. But I mean, that's the idea. It's like casual and competitive. Seems like it would.
Social. It's a social playlist.
Social, better.
I like that. I like that verb.
Yeah.
I just don't think that like a rank rework fits the scope of a season. If we're gonna like think about it in development timelines, right? It just doesn't feel like it fits the scope of a season.
You're not wrong.
Depends on the season.
True. We have seen crazy seasons, right?
There was a trial season. They did a trials rework in an off season.
Yep, it's true.
It's like I feel like we got Solar Arc and Void 3.0. This next season, I feel like is going to be how balanced can we get these things before we throw another like wrench into the machine that is Strand? Because
Strand's gonna be here.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're actually going to kind of do a little passover on Stasis, like one more time to see like is it bad, is it good, is it too much, too little in comparison to where all the other 3.0 settles. Like Stasis 2.0, and you're like, don't mess with my Shadebinder.
I want another super. I want another Stasis super to match the other like.
I mean. That would be nice. That would be nice because I am really tired. I mean, Travis and I over here is like, oh, I've got Ice Fists, and then this time I'm gonna have Strand Fists. I'm like, can I have something besides a fist, please? Like,
they should let Behemoth throw the spear. Like that'd be a cool super.
Yeah, there's. I would like some options on that one. I agree, and that's Stasis. I was like, I totally get it. Like Warlocks for Stasis, you guys got one of the coolest ones. The range, the freezing, the melee. Like you have a lot of versatility. Travis and I both we hated the Stasis subclass because it was awful for the Titan. Like it does not do a whole lot. I think there's probably some people that probably could make it work, but for the average, just was not exciting compared to the rest. So that was not fun.
We had to use it for the grenade in PvP.
Yeah, my friend Wormy played that class a lot when it came out, and he called it the Kool-Aid Man subclass. Just throw the nade and run through people with it.
Yep, that makes sense. So I wanted to get your kind of official take, because I feel like I've seen it, but I want everybody to hear it. SBMM, where do you stand on this whole topic in general?
I am in favor, generally speaking, of any system that improves the health of the game. And I don't care at what personal cost it comes to me. However, I do enjoy playing in skill-based matchmaking more than I did stomping, players who had no business being in my lobby. I think it is infinitely more fun. It's more entertaining for my stream. It's easier to make content off of for me because there's 9 million videos on YouTube of good players mowing through bad players. Like that's not interesting. To me, it's interesting whenever the other people on the enemy team that I'm mowing down. And so that's why I enjoy skill-based matchmaking. My friends and I are the kind of team that we wait until the flawless pool is out, and then we deliberately throw our sleep schedule so that we play at 4 a.m. just so that we can play good teams.
That's
Like,
gangster. That's
That's
gangster. He outside.
and we don't win. Like, we don't win all of those games, but like we want to play them. You know what I mean? Like, how because there's nowhere else to find that. Like, where else do you find that in the game? It's private matches, and believe me, we play those too. But like, to me, control is an easy way for me to play other good players now, and I'm excited about that.
Let's break this down. You dropped
Hell
some
yeah.
major nuggets, some major
Hell
bombs
yeah.
just there. Me and Chad were just smiling like proud dads right now. We loving this. But my question though is like, what about the pushback when they say Gleaux? I don't want to sweat every match. I wanna go in there and have fun, and I don't want Destiny to have that. I shouldn't be matched against people close to me because the reality is it's just too sweaty. It's not fun when it's that competitive. What is your response to that?
I think that is a valid perspective that is coming from. It is a valid perspective, but they're not communicating what the true problem is. I think when they say they don't want to sweat, what they mean is they don't want to play 6 Acts of the Monarchs, or they don't want to play the overtuned parts of Destiny that whenever you're in a skill-based environment and you are at the top of the bracket, those things bubble up because sometimes the loadout just makes you better in Destiny, for better or for worse, right?
I think what they're saying is they don't want to lose, personally.
I think that might be a bit cynical for some of them. Speaking as someone who like frequents that bracket of players, I think that there's a healthy amount of people who are good at the game who don't mind playing other good players. I think that they just don't like being forced to play against what they perceive to be cheese, for better or for worse.
Okay. So you're saying like the deeper issue, whether it be maybe bending the knee, so to speak, to the current meta, and they feel that they would have to do that to compete. So it's more of the loadout being the issue as opposed to the competitive landscape of skill-based matchmaking.
I think a good example is a good player will probably tell you last season if they wanted to ultimately like play their best, they put on Omni Oculus and Lord of Wolves. And at the higher skill brackets, if you had skill-based matchmaking last season and that went down, I think you would have seen probably lobbies with 7 or 8 people with Omni Lord of Wolves. And there's no way you can cut that and say that's fun, because it is overtuned. I think there's no way around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
This season, though, I think that there are not nearly as many outliers. So I do think there is a little bit of weenie behavior going on among some of the better players, complaining about these high-level skill-based matchmaking games. But yeah, I do think that they're complaining, but their complaints weren't focused in the right area, in my opinion.
You're basically saying like, when SBMM affects a high level player, it's typically not that they like if you're worried about being able to like try other weapons in there, that doesn't seem to be the issue. It's when you are facing nothing but, like, as you said, if the cheese is a little overflowing during those moments when it's just like the stuff that, supposedly in the top meta, even though you're literally counter meta guy, but as you said, some of the stuff
That's why I play it.
Yeah, Omni Lord of Wolves, for example, and you're just like, that's not going to be a great time if you're facing or like, yeah, as you said, layman arcs just everywhere. You're going, okay, at some point. So I get those,
and it's like all day, right?
But at some point, I feel like having SBMM actually show that, like, if they can look at that high level players and see in the matches like what's in there frequently, they could almost use that as data that could be like, okay, this does seem to be kind of broken for whatever reason. Everybody's using it, so let's like maybe an easier thing to investigate at that point as well.
I agree. I think it helps us get truer usage rates because previously people were just able to use whatever, and then now if you care to win, you have to actually play the meta. And I think, yeah, like you said, it'll be more representative of what the game actually is.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
One other thing I wanted to ask you is they described the skill curve, like the big bell curve was like slightly shifted. It was like -1,000 to 1,000, and they said the average person's at like 100. I'm probably sitting right at the top of that bell curve, so I'm probably like dead middle. Plenty of players to play with. I was curious in SBMM, in something like Control or say a social playlist, if SBMM is going to be on, how wide for say somebody who's sitting at 1,000, like peak player, maybe not 1,000, but somewhere in that top 100. how far down do you think they should be? Because right now it feels like the issues that they have is like the higher you get, the smaller population you have. And granted, I don't think 1,000 should be anywhere near a negative 1,000, but how far in that range do you think top and bottom should stretch to give them hopefully better, especially in something social like the ranked, as we were talking about, hopefully as tight as possible. But in something like a social, I was curious, how wide do you think would be fair?
I don't think it's fair or right for me to guess at that. I mean, I don't have access to the data Bungie does, and I'm sure that they can make that judgment call, and I trust them to make it much better than I could just sitting on the sidelines. To me, all I ask is that my queues are not terribly long, and they haven't been. And I ask that my matches are not too laggy, and they haven't been. And I'd like to have good quality of opponent, and I have. So no complaints from me so far.
Nice.
No doubt. Respectful.
Yeah. Well, do you guys want to go to?
I like that he's just a moderate.
Yeah, he's this level-headed guy over here. It's so weird.
Yeah,
right?
we usually have people who are like dead set on one or the other and want to fight about it, and you're just like, yeah, it's pretty good.
And ultimately, like, I'm gonna play no matter what, right? Like, so
Sure.
to me, it's whatever gets more people in the Crucible, because that means I get to play for longer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's right.
Building that population.
No doubt.
Is there anything else Crucible related you guys wanted to talk about? Because I wanted to talk about some of the other things going on.
Those are my major ones. He definitely answered those.
Okay.
Not unless it's Arthur Miller's The Crucible.
Probably not.
Probably not a
Probably
topic for
not.
this.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Cool.
So I wanted to ask you guys if you noticed the Bungie help thing that they mentioned, and also the patch notes this week. I don't know how much Gleaux that you actually play PvE stuff. Are you?
I play the whole game.
Okay, fair. There are some patch notes coming that seem to be trying to alleviate some things, plus the Bungie help thing a day after Fallout dropped a video, like 6 months into the season, or 6 weeks into the season. I'll start with the Bungie help one, in case anybody doesn't know. Today, they tweeted, "We are aware of an issue causing ruffians to despawn during the expedition experience, impacting progress for the Robber Baron Triumph. A fix for this issue is currently in the works for a mid-season patch." Okay. Timing on this does beg a question, because yesterday, Fallout was like, Scallywag title with a giant red X over it. And normally, like, everybody's going to have their moments, and this is one where he went in. And I'm not trying to call him out, because we're all thinking the same thing. He just verbalized it and he kind of gave it long enough. But it's like, when you start to dig in to be like, okay, what's it going to take for me to get the title? All right, I need 50 ruffians. Okay. How do you get the ruffians to spawn? Well, Scarrow went through and figured out they spawn at about 3 minutes, and then you have a maybe random dude. And then at about, I think 6 or 7, I forget the other timer. But if you do the activity somewhat efficiently, like if you just see the thing show up, chunk him in the treasure hauler,
Yeah.
you are never going to make it to 3 minutes. It is, unless you are trying to like throw the basketball out of bounds constantly and literally just like throw the pass into the stands type thing. Like, unless you are just literally throwing it away, you're going to finish that thing too quickly. I just wanted to ask you guys, because it's that, and then the TWAB had 2 patch notes, and that's it. To alleviate some pressure in acquiring Season of Plunder weapons, the double perk weapon spoils upgrade will now give you a deep sight modded weapon the first time you focus it each week. We've had this in previous seasons. Now they're changing this one. The deep sight modded weapon from the Hidden Compartment crew will now appropriately refresh. They said it was a bit of a doozy to address. So the second one seems like a bug, where the Master Catch Crash is supposed to drop a red one. It wasn't. Now it is. But the other two is like, this may be the kind of cynic in me, I guess, every so often might actually come out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys feel there is a point to where, and Bungie, if you guys are listening, I'm sorry for this one. Do you guys feel sometimes some of these decisions are almost made a little too engagement focused as opposed to fun focused? Because I'm gonna say yes. There's the fact that they realize there is an issue 6 weeks later. This is one of those moments it's hard for me to believe. This is one of those cynical moments to be like, we've all known that this was a problem from day one. Like, Scarrow was trying to figure it out day one. Fallout finally makes a video, and then it's like, oh, we figured this. Like the timing seems convenient is one of those
Now
things. And that's
wait.
And that's what I wanted to ask and just say, do you guys think I'm crazy? Do you guys feel the engagement numbers they're going for on some of these things is like, well, they pulled the timer out also of expeditions. Timer was there. Scare's like, hey, watch the timer. Now there's no timer. That happened before this was like, I was curious what you guys thought. Like, am I crazy? Am I being cynical? Where do you guys think, the way the seasons have been progressing as well, where do you guys feel some of these seasonal activities are going?
Correct me if I'm wrong. So I definitely cannot blame you for being cynical about this because the whole thing was handled kind of poorly. But I don't think that they said that they just discovered this was a problem. Right?
They said we are aware of an issue causing ruffians to despawn.
Correct. So that's my point with your argument about like how this is 6 weeks and they've just now figured it out. I think they figured it out on week 1. I just think that when you have a game like Destiny, you have to choose what to get around to. And I don't think that this was on top of the priority list until the community started complaining about it. And then they're like, all right, we probably should get to that one. Because I've worked at companies long enough to know that like sometimes you just put something off as long as you think you can get away with because you just have so much crap on your plate. I think that's what happened. I think they were like, yeah, we need to fix that scallywag thing. Maybe tomorrow. And then it just got away from them, especially since I know they're a remote working company now. Like I've also worked for remote working companies and like those are the worst at doing that because it's so easy to just like, you know, you're not seeing them at the office. They're not at your desk, like bugging you about it. So it's just easy to be like, oh, tomorrow we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I agree with you, E, that like it's the messaging is not great. The fact that this was a bug at all kind of shows the thoughtlessness with which they craft their seals. And another thing that struck out to me, which, you know, maybe this is just my relationship with Destiny now, but this is a hilarious problem to me because I knew about 0 of the terms involved in this when they posted the patch notes. I was like, scallywag, don't really remember what that is. The ruffians, not really familiar with them. 3 minutes versus 1 minute, no idea what that's about. And I don't understand what any of this is. And that's just the type of player I am in Destiny because I like to have a good relationship with Destiny. So I do not go for seals, especially seasonal seals that are designed to be irritating and force you to play on a timeline. And I like literally I looked at this and I was just like, dude, I have no idea what any of these words mean. I feel like a blueberry. I feel like a kindergartner who just doesn't play Destiny very often. And it kind of made me laugh, but I'm kind of glad I didn't really understand what any of these words meant. So I don't know. So yeah, to answer the first one, I don't think it's them being shady. I think it's probably just them being inefficient in their timing and handling of tickets. I bet you this Jira ticket was floating around for like a couple weeks, and they're like, "Oh God, did we forget to assign that to someone?" Nobody's assigned to that Jira ticket, and it's marked with major priority, but nobody's assigned it. We forgot to do that. I bet you that's what happened. So that's my take on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't aware of it. I mean, this would be a great episode for Teddy, though. I wish Teddy was here to give us the other side, because he would go in. He's so passionate about titles and the nuances, but that man is a beast. Yeah, I think I'll leave with Travis here because when you're on the other side of it, what you realize is that these companies know already. Anything, for the most part, it's rare that, not say it's rare, but the chances of us, the community, finding something versus them at that scale, they generally know about it, but just from a prioritization standpoint, or there's a lot of contingency plans. So what will happen is they know what the issue is, but they say to themselves, okay, this is contingent on this other foundation that needs to be fixed first. And then we can get that. So it's kind of like an order of operation. There's steps. And sometimes a lot of the fixes we want for things that seem simple and basic are contingent on bigger layer stuff that may take more time. So I think that could be the situation. This is absolutely hilarious. I didn't know. I was like, I didn't know what was going on, why people was flipping out. It sounded wild to me. So I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, they're aware of it. I mean, hopefully, this does not, and like prohibit people long term, with this whole getting this title thing. I know this is very important to people. I personally, I'm not as interested in that because I don't have that level of investment, but there are people that really care about these titles. And this is very important that they can't do them in a timely fashion. My only thing is, I don't know if we're going to talk about it, is I want to talk about the 6-player stuff. That to me is very funny right now, what's going on. And I think my theory is that I think they are softly pushing towards master seasonal content and forcing that engagement with the 6-player stuff. That I think
you're talking about you can do this thing for like 17 runs, or you can do one master. Is that what you're talking about? Okay, well,
I feel that slight nudging.
Put a pin in that for a second. I want to ask
Gleaux.
I wanted to ask Gleaux, just if there was anything you wanted to add for the whole Ruffian expedition thing, or my initial.
I think I largely agree with what Travis said. Destiny's kind of like steering a battleship, right? So anytime something pops up, there's priorities. What the team that is probably responsible for making the season is probably already making another season right now. So they have to shift around their work schedule to address this kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any like tinfoil behind it. I think it's literally just timings.
Do you guys think it was at all weird that the timer went away from the activity at some point, though?
Coincidental. Weird, but coincidental.
It was just odd. That was
So
all.
what time?
Maybe.
Break it down. What is it that I missed?
Like Expedition, when you would start, there was just a timer. Like, you start a strike or whatever, there's a timer in the bottom corner.
Okay.
Maybe it was like week 3? Because I can't remember. I'd have to go back and kind of figure out who posted it. Cascara went through and figured out. He's like, okay, you got to do this many. Here's this thing. Here's how they spawn. If you wait long enough, you could get up to 4. But if you wait, you should get a minimum of 2. And then it was like, I feel like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Maybe it was like week 3 or something. All of a sudden, you went into Expedition. Timer was gone. There was no timer in there. That's why I was like, and again, is that like a weird bug? Is that their way to like kind of mask it until they get the prioritization done? It's just odd. But what you actually were going to go to is probably even another interesting topic, was this steering towards master. Now, granted, I will say I went to Bungie.net. I said, find a fire team on Tuesday. And I said, master catch crash. I found one. I hit join. And then you just find somebody's name. You type in join and it worked. And there were some deaths in there, but we eventually did. I got gold. I didn't get platinum. So I was like, that's kind of a thing. But do you feel that's like, because they've said LFG is potentially going to be about this time next year. Not Lightfall's raid, but like the free raid next year. Do you guys feel them pushing, theoretically, kind of almost story beats, pushing people into master is a good thing to do related to seasonal content? Or how do you think they're handling that right now? Because I know that's who you were talking about. So, Cog, if you want to open that can of worms, go nuts.
It's just interesting because, now that I'm so ingrained into the seasonal model, every week is, tune in next week for the latest story in this chapter of Destiny. So I want to know what's going on with Mithrax. I want to know, and the first week we like, okay, was it last week where they were like, okay, do this amount of champions. And I'm like, oh, that's a big number, but okay.
250 champions, by the way. You seen that one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then you do the regular, and you're like, wow, if I do this regularly, and then you see the verbiage where it's like, but master version will increase your progress. They would
tell you, by the way, like, if you do this one, it's going to take you, it's worth, 1 of 15 or something. But if you do master, it's 5 times as much. Like, instead of it just saying more, I feel like sometimes if they're like, master is 10 times better, that would almost incentivize some, be like, how can I get this done? They might actually go look. If it's just like, well, I don't know if it's 2 times more. If I just go run it randomly by myself, I'll be okay. But if it's like, last week was stupidly faster type thing. Like, I think that might help. But anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the disparity, we saw it there, which thoroughly, in my opinion, it made it, they incentivized you doing this, right? So they want you to, and my question is, like, because it's seasonal content that we know that goes away and it's limited, I'm just curious, if that's what they want us to do, then why still gate the matchmaking, right? Because that's my only concern. Like, why don't you just open it up if you want people to do this harder thing? That's my question for you guys. Yeah, how you guys feel about that?
Before I went off a little bit, so Gleaux, you can go first.
Yeah, I kind of have a theory. I think maybe that these seasons are being developed with the LFG tool already like being in mind,
Gotcha.
and possibly already being in the development branch of these seasons.
Yeah.
So I think it's possible that like they're looking at this and going, oh, they're gonna have the LFG tool, even though the timeline might not actually work out for that, right? I think it's also possible that maybe the LFG tool was supposed to launch earlier, and these seasons were built with that in mind. You know what I mean? And maybe that's their way of like encouraging people to use the new functionality. I don't know, but ultimately, I don't think it's a bad thing to incentivize players to engage with harder content, especially if you're still leaving the option for them to complete it in less difficult content. I do think the number that they gave was a little bit absurd, which is probably why they auto completed it. So maybe maybe lowering that a little bit wouldn't be a bad idea. But I do like the idea of rewarding engagement with more difficult content.
It was like, for me, I mean, yeah, that's no, I was just gonna say that's the idea, is like, if LFG was supposed to be there, and theoretically if I can go do it without a muted mic or something, set a minimum level for master. Like, somebody at 1550 should not be queuing into master. There needs to be a minimum level. And then theoretically, if you want to matchmake into it, then maybe don't lock loadouts, and then, like, especially for seasonal content for story, don't lock loadouts, put a minimum level, and then, have the big warning like they do, like, these are the champions, make sure you have those weapons. I don't know if you require them to be there. Like, each person has to have, like, almost double primary as of until lately. But yeah, it's like, if everybody goes in, theoretically, you could get it done. Because I did it, and we didn't talk, and it was just like, I joined, went, cool, shot things. Like, none of those are that difficult. So I feel like until LFG is there, if they just turn matchmaking on for, say, seasonal difficult stuff with a minimum level cap, I feel like it would probably be, it can't hurt to try it, I think we're at the point where we need to try it. Because we did Legend Nightfalls in one of the, what is it, the seasonal events? What did we do? We basically had a Legend Nightfall with champions. Was it Solstice or Guardian Games or something? Where we had like a high difficulty activity we joined into. I'm not crazy, because I know it was like, and matchmaking.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, I was like,
are you talking about the 30th anniversary thing where people were getting joined in and they were not high enough level to finish the activity?
No. Like, more recently, when we had like it was either Solstice or Guardian Games or something, and it's like you could queue into, maybe it was the Guardian Games strike playlist, but if you did it on a higher difficulty, matchmaking was still on. And I was like, oh, they're testing like matchmaking being on in higher than just hero. And yet we haven't seen it anywhere else, but that went totally fine. Those are the weird decisions when I'm like, why does that exist? And I know it did, I just can't remember. It might have been Guardian Games. I don't know if that was like a strike playlist, but yeah, that was Guardian Games. Okay. So why does that legend okay, but this one's not? Just put a level cap on it. But we've proven the basic level stuff can get done, I think.
Yeah, I don't think you should ever make a player go to LFG. So the assumption that like maybe they expected us to have LFG or they're using internally still strikes me as pretty odd. Because if you are going to force a player to go to an LFG, why wouldn't you just make matchmaking? Like, why wouldn't you just put matchmaking in the game? Because it's essentially the same thing. People aren't forced to use mics in LFG. I think LFG is for people who want to pick their people that they're playing with for some reason, either because they want to trust their skill level, or they want to be able to talk to them, or they want to be on the same page about what they're actually going to be doing. I think that's what LFG is for. But if you are going to force people to do LFG, they're not going to do that. They're not going to be picking who they're playing with. They're just going to be like, click on button to find group. Like, that's going to be as much as they do. And if that's what you're doing, then matchmaking is already a better solution that exists for that. So I'm okay with them making us try harder content as part of what's relevant. I don't think it's a great idea to make somebody do an event that requires high level or high skill for the story, especially since some people paid for the story and want to be able to see it all. And if they have to play with a team or can't beat a certain level, they're probably going to be a little pissed about that. So yeah, I don't know. I think it was just a weird call. I know we already talked about this a couple weeks ago. By the way, I caught up on the story and I have thoughts. I know that's sort of not part of the syllabus today, but yeah, I was curious. I did not watch last week's episode or last week's segment where I was gone. But
Okay.
yeah,
Hey, Travis, you want to stop your advertisements? That'd be great, buddy.
I don't want to stop.
I know you got your, I know your
69
side
online.
business, but we've talked about this. Okay.
Gotta hustle, man. Gotta hustle. Gotta pay that rent. Rent's expensive in San Francisco.
I
Let me
mean,
tell you,
I
man.
believe it. I totally
Yeah.
believe that.
But you know what's not expensive? Chat.69. Check us out online. We've got deals.
Woo!
Yeah,
Moving it right
great.
here, man. Moving and shaking.
Yeah, like I'm basically with you. I don't feel like either they need to separate it somehow, but a story, somebody logs on, and was kind of my joke the other week, is like somebody who's got like maybe a kid who's sleeping in the other room, they get like an hour to play, should not have to either queuing up master difficulty should not be the way to do the story. Maybe there's a different checkpoint. Maybe there's a seasonal challenge that's like crazy faster if you do master. That I would be okay with, but the story beats in and of itself. They've never done that. And until you make it an in-game thing with matchmaking, I don't think it should be there. That's just my opinion on the story.
Even then, I don't think it should be. It needs to be accessible.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope they get that thing, solved out through Nightfall and the whole integration that they plan on doing, because they look like they're really going to do a new player experience kind of revamp and get people involved. So shout out to whoever's car that was, but that's the Travis Mobile. But yeah, I want that, because I actually didn't mind the concept of going into mask. I'm like, that's cool, because I would never do that. Or if you put a gun up, I'm not going to do it unless there was an incentive.
It was
so
just the
like,
disparity, I think, between them.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
And Bungie agrees, right? They auto completed it. So
Yes.
I think that they're aligned with the community on that one.
Absolutely.
Except for when they designed the season.
Yeah, true.
They were aligned with it briefly after not being aligned with it. So. Yeah, I mean, I get that they're moving fast, but like it kind of makes me laugh sometimes. I'm like, they didn't see that. They looked at what's on the agenda for today or for this week. Complete 50 champions. Yeah, nothing will go wrong with that. And they just like pushed it through. It blows my mind. But
I guarantee you, like in a design document somewhere, that value was just like, hey, X. Like we decide this later. And someone just threw a number in there and it never got.
Well, yeah,
50
for them it wasn't really 50. What it was, I think it was probably an automated number, because they were just like, we want you to kill this many in an activity, and we want to heavily incentivize and weight that activity. And then I think when they reverse engineered it, okay, well, how many would they have to do if they did it normally then? 50. And it just looks absurd, because I saw it. I didn't even understand it. I was just like, 50? No, I logged off. That was my entire week that week. I was just like, nah, I'm good.
There's no way you could convince me that some designer at Bungie looked at that number and signed off on it. I guarantee.
That's what I think. I think you're right. I think
it could have been a typo for all I know, and it just made it that far.
The teams that look at those numbers were not the same people who like are on Reddit and like know about the community and the stuff like that. So when they saw that, they probably laughed to themselves. They're probably like 50 champions.
Yeah, probably we fucked
Who
that
put
one
that
up.
in there?
Be like, guys.
Who put 50 champions?
It's like, we're going to have to fix that. But actually, it kind of takes us into a good thing. Story this week, and Travis, I know you kind of stepped away last week for the story, so we had the big cinematic discussion, and then now we're all caught up. Yeah, what are you guys takes on the story? And Travis, you can go first. You can fill us in on your thoughts on last and this week.
Yeah, because what I ended up doing is I waited until Tuesday right before reset, and I finished last week's story, and then I just finished the next week's story immediately after, because by then reset had happened.
There you go.
So I don't know what your guys's takes were, because I did not watch that segment and I left the room for it.
Yeah.
But it seemed like you guys were like, oh, the story hasn't been great, but it stepped up its game. And my thought was that last week was like the biggest nothing burger I've ever seen. And it was just like a complete it was not even a plot development. It was like, oh, Misrax was bad. It's like, yeah, we know. He was a fall. Yeah, what? Yeah, we know that, dude. Like, and we that's been in the canon for a while, and everybody knows that apparently, except for his daughter. It struck me as, don't get me wrong, the cinematic was cool. It was the art was great. I had no problem with any of that stuff. I just sort of was like, okay, so he was bad, and we knew that, but now there's a cinematic about how bad he was, and we're like, all right, that's fine, dude. You're cool. You know who else we're friends? You're cool, dude. You're fine. You know who else we're cool with? The Cabal. They were they murdered a lot of Guardians, a lot of them. And guess what? Now they hang out with us. They guard us on a ship. It's fine. We got over it, man. The past is the past. The Crow, he was pretty
we
bad.
literally had to go through the proving grounds with Caiatl to make that happen.
Yeah, exactly. But my thing is like, that is such a trope of Destiny of like they were bad and they were good. Now they're good. And so they even sort of touched on it with Saint 14. I mean, he wasn't bad, but they tried to be like, oh, his story was bad. So I feel like every time we see one of those cutscenes, it's like once somebody had a cool story and now they're not cool. Now they're not interesting. And I'm like, yeah, bro. Like I just was so, I was like, all right, cool. That was nothing. And then I thought that there was going to be more. I guess here's how, in summary, it's weird that the person I agreed most with on last week's story was the Drifter. When he was like, oh, he was like, oh, Mithrax used to be a bad guy. I'll tell Crow. I kind of laughed at that. I was like, yeah, exactly. That was the exact response I had. Was like, who gives a like, yeah. Do the Fallen not realize that they used to be kind of evil? That they used to just like run around and kill people? Like, how is she a historian and doesn't know that yet? Like the fact that she should have known that was like, did she miss the like 5,000 year period where that's all the Fallen did? Like where was that
naive.
part of?
Yeah, she's super naive. Yeah.
But she's a historian. What part of the like that's like she's like saying like, oh, I'm an American history buff, and like she didn't know about like the Civil War or something, and you're just like, wait, what? Like you missed that part? Like that's kind of a big part. That's crazy. I don't know. It just seemed like. Yeah, I just didn't. I don't know, man. I was kind of. I guess maybe my expectations were slightly higher than yours because you guys weren't expecting anything, and I went in knowing that you guys had positive feelings about it. So I was just like, oh, it's probably going to be good this week, and then I was just like, that kind of sucked. I wasn't really that into that. So I don't know. This season has kind of just been a nothing burger to me so far. But I like the pirates and the themes, and it's fine. The story I think is, It's just more wheel spinning, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
So,
I wonder how much of this is like what if Mithrax is going to play a big role in Nightfall, and this is Bungie just trying to like establish his backstory to an audience that might not know it, through Edo. I think it's Edo. That's how you pronounce it, right?
I keep saying Ido, so apparently I've been doing that wrong.
Whatever it is.
Whatever.
I do wonder if this is Bungie just like establishing the backstory a little bit, because it does seem like, to Travis's point, like, yeah, we know, you know what I mean? So I wonder if maybe it's for the audience that doesn't know,
Maybe that's a good point. Maybe that is it.
Trying to help out the newer players. What about you, Cog?
Yeah, I mean, for last week too, what Travis was saying, I think.
Wait, can I have to say this now, or I'll never be able to say it? But can we just talk about the cognitive dissonance of in the same week? Possibly including a story reference about Mithrax being bad for the new players if Glow's prediction is right. And then in that same week, also making it to see that story, you have to kill 50 champions. Something that players don't even know what a champion is if they're new, and they have to go do that to get that story. So I just want to put that out there. Maybe not what they were going for, but anyway,
that's actually really good because it's like the new player experience is like crazy.
Yeah. All you have to do is kill 50 of this thing that you don't know what it is, and then you'll get to see this cutscene about a thing that you don't yet know. Yeah,
the new player experience is easily the worst part of this game, by the way.
Easily, without a doubt. We talk about it all the time.
Every week, I feel like it comes up.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. We never got them off the hook with that. I think my thing with last week was more so the way. Like Mithrax, I'm like, bro, like you really still not gonna tell, the information is out. Like it wasn't that he was this bad person that really was an issue about what he did in the past and the whole. My thing was really more about the Nezarec stuff. That was really actually, for me. Like I was like, okay, I want to know what the hell this is. I want to know about the former disciples. My thing is, how did they kill him? That's really what I wanted. Yeah. I want to know, how did he fall and why he got like 6 tombs and 75 body parts all over the place. Like, that's
Voldemort, dude.
Yeah, I'm like, why is his body? Why is it not
the Horcruxes?
Yeah, like why did he not fall in a central location? Why would the parts sit all over the place? That's my whole thing. It's really Nezarec and more that Mithrax, like, fam. All you had to do was just tell a girl you got Aramis got to reveal this, great
I mean,
secret.
shame is a powerful thing, though, and for what he did to literally kill his own kind, it's like, hey, daughter, I went around and murdered a whole bunch of other humans. How's that going to go over? Like crap, like.
But it was a point now he was busted.
Oh no, I know.
And,
I mean, he waited too long. Yeah,
didn't he
that.
Didn't he murder his own people? Isn't that what she was upset about? He murdered other fallen, right?
Yeah,
he murdered.
He murdered. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like
Yeah.
I was joking. I was saying me, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I forgot to count fallen as people. Actually, I was like literally, I was like fallen, not people, right? People are humans. Yeah, okay, that's on me. That's my xenophobia coming out, I guess.
You hilarious, right?
Anyway.
Yeah, so it's just like, all right. So I'm like, fam, you're all right. You busted. You still going down with the ship. Like, I should have still protected you. I had to protect. All right, cool, whatever. Now we get to this week. And I'm like, this week was really light for me. Like, I was just like, all right. It felt like the prior weeks a little bit. Like, was very, very light
the little
again.
crouton again.
Yeah, it's a little nugget. Now she's processing a little bit. And then, like, Drifter being like the dad figure here.
He's like the nice uncle. Yeah, he's like,
yeah. He's like, yeah, look, man, everybody was a murderer.
Like, I got stuff I'm not proud of. God only knows what I want to know what Drifter isn't proud of, because we don't know a whole lot about his past. But I want to know what he did.
Yes, me too. Did you catch the line? They are really hard selling this Eris and Drift the thing. Because he said a little subtle line. He was like, yeah, I don't trust nobody like you, the Guardian, but Eris, Like, he had Eris ranked above us after all the stuff we've done for him. So I'm like, yo, what y'all two doing?
I mean, they're outside of us Guardians, they're only like the few rare people who have kind of interacted with the darkness. Both of them kind of have, right?
Right.
So I mean, they're kind of on a unique playing field there, but
I think they're neither of them are Guardians. Do you count as a Guardian if you lose your ghost? I know Drifter isn't, but
it's just like a weird.
Drifter is
you have powers, but just don't die.
Yeah,
he's a rogue light bearer.
Light bearer.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I think Eris technically is a rogue light bearer too, because I don't think she's part of the Vanguard. She doesn't have a ghost. I don't think
she's got her.
I thought Eris was a hunter. Is she not?
I think she was.
She was. She
was.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if she still is. I would like to. I should read about this. I'm gonna get back into the Destiny lore, guys.
There you go.
So we'll start reading all those books again.
The Dig Trav, I'm so shocked you didn't mention this week, was during one of the story missions, we found out there's another group after these relics. One of your favorite groups returned that we had to fight against. I thought I was going to hear about this.
That's right.
Like, I'm thinking about
it. I was focused on last week, and this week I got to that part and I was like, oh, now we're talking.
Yeah,
we're talking.
I was expecting you to go off. I'm like, here we go. Hive Light Bearers, true threat, true enemy. I was like, it's so funny because it feels like Witch Queen has been so long ago that I fought them. It was good to fight them again. I was like, oh, okay, so they're in the mix. So I want to see what the hell they're going to connect this into it now. But what it does give me hope that Light Bearer, Lucid Hive are not just exclusive to that campaign and we don't ever see them again, kind of thing, because I love them as an enemy type. So if we got a score in this situation, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? If you want to, how they force the scoring kind of in VOW as an enemy type, I would love them to be an enemy type for whatever the next raid or whatever they got planned. I don't want them to go away because that's too good an enemy type to just kind of throw into the carpet, is what I was saying.
I also just want them to use that model to make new enemy types, because that was a great example of like, I mean, I'm not a developer. I have to say that every time I go on one of these benders, but like resource reuse, like they straight up were like, we're not making new characters, not new archetypes of enemies. We're giving them new abilities and repurposing them as like semi-boss like enemies. And I think that's like a infinitely repeatable model. Like they can do that for Cabal, they can do that for Fallen, they can do that for all these different mob types. And I would just love to see there be like, because right now the only distinction that we've ever had are majors, right? Which are nothing. And then we've had champions now, which are annoying as crap. And so if those are our two options, I say like the light bearer route is the model. Like that's the model they should use for everything going forward, is like create a more interesting version of an existing enemy that is like in between a boss
Yep.
and just a regular drag.
Yes.
And I don't mean like a literal drag. I mean drag as in lowercase d.
Right.
So yeah, I just I think that it's such a good part of the game that it's needed for a while, because it really sucks to be like, oh look, this is a major knight. What does he do? Oh, he does the same thing as a regular knight. He's just got a yellow health bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just all
All right.
and
Cool,
shout out
dude.
to- yeah. shout out
Cool.
to
Now I have to waste more of my ammo on him. Sweet. That's
I hope they
super
take
cool
the
game design.
same route that they did with the champions and like wave by wave introduce the different race of light bearers. I wouldn't be sad if that happened.
Yeah, me neither. Do it. They don't even have to be light bearers. Just make them interesting enemies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like keep the light bearers to the hive. You can do like a Cabal new type of enemy that's got it's basically just like a next tier. You can call them whatever you want. Something ancient Roman.
They're the
Tormentors. That's what I wanted to shout out.
Well,
G-Man.
no, the Tormentors for sure.
That's what I'm excited for
Yeah.
in Nightfall. Big boy.
No, Callus's new force called the Shadow Legion. Supposedly they're like Cabal, but they have like different attacks and abilities. So hopefully it's like a full rework of Cabal, kind of like Siva, I would guess, for Fallen. Hopefully in something along those lines that they're going to be different Cabal.
Make
But
a Scion that's like a teleporting ninja that kicks me with martial arts. You know, like just do some cool reworks of existing stuff.
yeah, Tormentors are what I'm excited about, though. They describe them as so threatening. They, in my mind, they need to be more of a threat than the Hive Guardians. On when we were on Legend difficulty, like if I see a Tormentor in Legend difficulty, I need to like pucker, like like that. I want it to be tough.
Yeah, that's how they described it. That's literally how they described it. They're sitting on the splicers. They never brought them back from D1.
Well, that's Siva. They
Is
haven't.
Siva?
If they're going to touch,
Splicers were the same problem though. They were just the same enemies with a different skin. And
I'm just like, maybe if they rework them, give them some cool attributes.
You'd
Find
have-
a
that'd
way.
be cool.
you'd have to
Yeah.
introduce Siva, which so far it doesn't seem like they're headed to.
Do it.
I miss Siva.
Do it.
Yeah.
Hey, do that. A little rat to the machine. Be a nice little combo season. You know,
We have the weapon
Could,
art. Or
could
we
be
have,
the final element of darkness.
Yeah.
Siva.
Siva.
Is Siva darkness? I don't know. They could find a way to make it darkness.
They
Final
could
darkness
definitely find
subclass is Siva. You heard it here first, guys.
a way. It is.
I'm a Bungie leaker.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lighter week. We've got no freelance this weekend, but just normal trials should be there.
Noise.
Oh, the other thing, the War Priest challenge. We ended up skipping it because it's such a.
What
What is it? I don't even know.
Okay,
I don't even know.
so
I saw
you've-
people online condemning the developers to hell for
Yeah.
coming up with this challenge, and I was
Let's
like,
go.
Is
okay,
it the same thing as
so
Day
they're
One?
having a good time in the raid this week, is what I've learned.
No, so
Yeah.
you know now you have in War Priest, you know how the Knight spawn and you have to bring that buff to like take the buff on the aura holder, like you have to do that. So now apparently, because we were trying it and we're like, oh, it's like okay, so you got to do it within 5 seconds. So you figure you could kill it, and then say you're doing damage in the middle, just like hop down and take it. Like you just got to be
Oh, it's the Day One challenge.
yeah. So the day one challenge,
Oh.
but apparently nobody seemed to like it. Apparently it's just a very tight window. So I guess you truly have to be like, you need to be doing DPS where the knight spawns. And when it dies, you just have to, it seems like there's very little downtime that you can like pick it up and then take the buff is what it is. It's
You're a
just,
tight window.
And people are mad about that? I'm confused.
I mean, that's just what I kept seeing. That's just what I kept seeing is that like, well, I was even watching Scarrow and he's done
This
really
is
well.
a master raid challenge. To me, that's the disconnect for me between like the casual and I don't know what you'd call the other side, the elitist, whatever, engaged side of the community.
Yeah.
I don't understand the disconnect where they have these. This is a master raid, the challenge in the master raid, and we're complaining that it's too hard. After we spent the last 3 years talking about how we needed more difficult PvE content in Destiny, so I'm like,
So I
it
get,
feels like a little bit of.
I'm telling you,
like,
they don't want to lose.
So I get that. Well, okay, fair. I get that to a point, but it's also the idea of, I guess it's the way, like the window is. So, I mean, I get what they're going for. And again, once you kind of figure out you got to move your DPS, but then when you get around to, and I know master difficulty people got it done, but then it's like, how much more does that limit, especially if you need all 4 DPS windows? If you, what if you have, it's like if a challenge comes down to RNG, like if you get stuck up on the left, like every time or something, everybody's having to hop up there, as opposed to if the knights spawn the other way and you're like, okay, I can always do this quicker on another side. I feel like that's where some people had the issue, where there was like almost RNG in the night spawn order and where it could possibly be. It's not, okay, this is a thing, it could be a tight window, but you know, like it's something you can plan for. But if there's RNG based around it, I feel like that was some of the things that I kept hearing too. I know it was just something I saw a lot of like feedback on Tuesday about it. So I was just curious. I mean, it's one of those things. I haven't really loved a lot of the challenges and then some of the stuff lately that they've done. So it's kind of more on that line, I guess, than anything.
Well,
it's
last
like
week was the day one challenge as well, right? So are they just doing the day one challenges as
yeah,
the raid challenges?
that's all it. Yeah, that's
so.
what it is. Yeah. It was like the figure eight wasn't too bad. That actually makes you see both sides. I was like, that I get. That's just like you come back, and it's like when you take the buff, you just got to go to the other side. So you're actually just using both sides. I was like, that one I was okay with. And again, I don't know what the other ones are, but this is like kill the knight. But when you pick up the buff, you have to transfer it really quickly, and it's like depending on where it's at, depending on if you got to move the aura for DPS. So when you kill it, it's up there. It's like it's fine, but to me, I don't know, some of the challenges that they've done, I haven't. And then the same thing, it was like some of the challenges in VOW when we were working through those as well. I just didn't like the designs were like, do this slower or so is how some of those felt.
Yeah, I remember that.
So it's like, I could understand a thing for like difficulty per se, if there was, you know, certain more mechanics or if it was different enemies or something. But when it's just like, do it poorly is what Val felt like. That's when kind of like I got turned off on the challenges when I was trying to work through those with our team is like, so you're just supposed to be less efficient or whatever it was. It just seemed odd. So I just haven't loved them lately. And that's all, I guess.
The philosophy behind it, right? You're saying, I think you were telling me something about you have to, it was almost like put yourself in almost in a lose state for one of them in Val. What was that? What was the exact one that I remember you guys were talking about?
I can't remember which one that it was like just kind of annoying.
Yeah, I forgot. I remember I was like, wow, that's an interesting mechanic.
It might have been, is it Caretaker maybe? Where you couldn't do more than one symbol at a time or something like that. That was probably the one. I think it was you couldn't do more than one symbol at a time. So then, I mean, I know I think multiple people were going and I think picking it up, but it's like, if I can run in, have enough time to pick up 3, come back out and you switch, and now you're saying like, you can only go pick up 1. It's a different way to do it. It just, being efficient is the way they didn't want you to do it, which is just doesn't feel right. That's, I guess, that one.
I thought it was another one though. I thought it was like I thought it was like the first encounter. Something about the.
It might have been that too. I'm trying to remember what that challenge was on the totem.
First encounter. It sounded way worse than what you described. Whatever it was before. I think it was whatever.
That's the one where you don't. Yeah, where you don't kill
the champion. You have to keep all 3 champions alive and then kill them all at the same time.
That was
I actually did that one. It wasn't that bad. I mean, it was irritating. It's irritating because the goal is don't do something well, like play the game poorly for like a certain amount of time and then play it well all of a sudden. Like that it's just not interesting. Like if it were up to me, everything would be like, hey, we add an extra mechanic that makes it harder to accomplish or something like that. But I realize that this is not, they can't really go hog wild on this because how many people do the challenges? Less than 1% do raids. How many do the challenges and raids? I don't do them.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean? Like, I don't think Hog does them.
That's like, the one I remember.
Dude, if we don't do them, you know who's doing them? Rick Cacus is doing them. That's it. That's like the only dude. It's him.
I played with him recently on something.
And it's him and Teddy. And Teddy is only doing it. Yeah. He's doing it out of self-hatred. So
yeah. I mean, do you think we're talking out of our butt here for like VOW? Because those are the ones I think that probably rubbed me wrong. Were you okay with those, or where you at?
How can we rub you right?
Careful, we're gonna get back into your advertisement.
I really only do raid challenges if I'm like interested in the weapons, and I wasn't interested in VOW, so I didn't give a shit.
Fair.
For this raid, I'm not really like looking to do them. I had a day 1 clear for this raid, so it's not like I've already done them, I guess. But I'm not like particularly interested in it. I have the sniper unlocked from last week. That's literally all I care about. So
yeah, for a PvP main, I could see that.
I can see that.
I'll tell you, I'm much less interested in the challenges that are tied to adept loot now because I don't feel like adept loot is very good.
Yep.
You don't say.
Yeah.
The crafted weapons are just like better in almost every scenario. So
interesting.
Where do you think they can? Because I know there's the worry of power creep and too much, I guess, with adept. Even though adept really is like everybody literally just wants adept for adept big ones. That's the only reason in PvE, and I don't know how much a difference those like, you know, adept range or whatever makes a difference in PvP per se. But
Adept
what-
targeting.
I could see that. Okay. I was wondering, though, like, do you feel? How would you fix the adept loot? Is there anything you would do for hard mode loot to matter? Because I'm not running it, so I wonder if you could.
I mean, if I was king for the day with infinite money, I would make the adept weapons just drop with randomly rolled enhanced perks. To me, that's like no brainer, right? There's still the RNG side to it, where like you have to grind them, which I think Bungie wants. They want players engaging with the activity and grinding hours out. So that's there. At the same time, is it power crept? Like a little bit, but not that much, right? I think it's still not that much better than the crafted version. You're just getting the adept mods, and to me, that's, I don't know. I think it's a pretty
I like
simple
that
solution
actually. This guy's my speed. You guys all think I'm like this radical, but every time I hear a moderate opinion, I'm like, that makes sense, because that is the moderate opinion. It's not, hey, because you did the Grandmaster activity, you should be way more powerful than other people. It's you should be a little bit. And the people who grind out that little bit are the people who are willing to play 90% more time to get that 5% more power. And that's how it should be. It shouldn't be 10%, 15% more powerful, because that's just the rich getting richer, and it compels more casual players to do content they don't want to do, which is just terrible. So,
but this would be a Demon Joe Ebontis said last week. We literally said that. We were like, yo, they can cheat sport, and you killed Demon Joe.
no, you said you guys. So yeah, my argument last time we talked about this, which I don't remember what episode that was, but it was just that adept weapons should be a little better than the normal weapons, but not that much, because the casual, I say casual, but what I actually mean is like the normal player will grind enough to get the craftable version. The sane player, and then
it's like these are all raiders.
Yeah.
These are all raiders. That's a small group.
Yeah. The insane elite people are going to go the extra mile for the adept, and I think that should be enough to keep them interested, but it should not be that much of an advantage, because you don't have to give them a lot to keep playing. They're looking for reasons to play. And also, if you make it too wide, then the players like me go, well, what's the point of even doing the craftable versions? Because if I'm just going to get stomped by somebody who's willing to do that even more committed activity that I'm simply not willing to do, I might as well not even try. So it starts to become inaccessible. And I just think like there's a middle ground. And so my perspective as somebody who doesn't get adept weapons unless they appear in trials is the system we have now is kind of fine. But you guys told me last episode that you thought that the adept ones were straight up not as good as craftable. And I just don't have any perspective on that. But if that's true, then they should be a little stronger.
Yeah,
I think his solution is
he went the extra mile. Demon, in your defense,
I think he was saying they should be better. Like they should be really good weapons
and everything else. Yeah. And I was fine with just the enhanced perks as well, like that, as them coming as the standard part of the drop, because that
he said more energy.
Yeah, he did say that.
I want artifice armor. I want artifice armor.
That's crazy.
Yeah, artifice armor should be there, personally, because it's in a dungeon. Well, it's in a dungeon. Why the hell is it not in a master raid? That blows my mind. I know you want people to do both, but I'm like, that just gives people more. You're still dealing with like RNG of stats and the placement and the number and everything. And when you get a raid drop of loot that's a 58, and I'm like, garbage. And I just did a raid for a 58. High mobility, by the way, in the first week. I was like, what the hell? So yeah, those moments I'm like, no. But yeah, I was like, but something again, I think if you did artifice armor with like 11 energy, because you have that extra slot, but then it's usually for a seasonal mod, you could actually have the boat. No. Okay.
No. I say no. Vetoed.
I have a hot take here. So I
go.
think artifice armor should just be the default. Like there's so many combat mods and like there's so much stuff now, and also like the mod should be more accessible, but I guess it's a whole other like tangent. But I do think artifice armor should be the default at this point. Like there's so much stuff that you want to use, you want to have fun within the build crafting, but it's hard to with the limited space, not the energy space, the like mod slot space.
My issue is, why do I have to pay for a mod slot for raid intrinsic perks?
Oh yeah, that
Why
should be
do-
like
why does that
a free raid slot.
towards the
Yeah.
armor? That should be intrinsically part of it. That's my issue. Like, like I don't understand. Like, if you want me to grind for it, like, why are you penalizing me for utilizing the armor that would be efficient in the raid?
Yeah, I
What do you
completely
mean?
agree.
What's the pay part? What are you paying for?
Well, you have the points per was like the 2 here, then you.
He's saying a
use your
raid
3.
mod should cost 0 energy, and right now, if you have a build,
Yeah.
but
Got
if you want to use
Yeah.
a
You're
raid
talking about
mod,
paying energy. Yeah.
Yeah, paying
Okay.
energy. Yeah.
That makes sense. I think that's fine. I
Okay.
think that's fine. But that would be something that everybody has access to.
Yes.
My problem with the philosophy of like more energy on certain activities and stuff like that is you're making it mandatory and you're giving into power creep. And so I would just say, like, there are easier solutions than power creep. There are more freedom. You could make all mods equipable on all pieces of armor, which is something I've said on the show before that I think should be a thing, because then you can build craft more easily. There's other things of that. I just think, why give you guys anything when you're going to play it anyway? That's all I say. Why give you anything?
Don't
Give
get
you a
caught
little
travel
bit, but
on
I
this.
don't need to give you that much, because you guys are looking for reasons to play. And all you're doing, if I add this content in the game, is you're making it harder for me to play at the level that I enjoy without hating the game and still being able to compete with you. Right? Do you want me to hate the game and play it, or give up? Those are the two options for people like me. Is I'm either going to hate the game or I'm not going to play it anymore. And so I would just say, make it as small an advantage as you possibly can. I don't even want to be able to see. I don't even want to be able to tell that your armor is better than mine until you explain to me how it is. That's how small it should be.
way to incentivize that hard difficulty stuff. Cool. All right. Anyway, moving on.
I don't need to incentivize you guys. You guys are zealots. You guys have the brand on your head, and you're like going around with the Bible, thumping your head against it. Like you guys are psychopaths.
am saying the challenges in Master are not worth doing the raid, so I'm literally not doing it because there isn't a point. That's what we're saying. Is like I'm not going to go into Master because there's no point in doing that. Yeah,
we're in agreement there. But if there was
engagement,
if there was a minute advantage to doing the raid, as small as possible, you would still do it, because you make videos on YouTube and you have to do it. So that's all I have to say.
I ain't doing none of that. I ain't stepping in no challenge. I'm like, what is the incentive? Nope. That big ones, get out of here. Like, I'm not. I'll be like, yo, tell me how it went. Let me know how your experience was.
Exactly.
Sure
here's the thing, Cock. Here's the thing, Hawk. Then you should be on my side on this debate, because you are a similar player to me. You don't have time. You like your relationship with Destiny. Your goal is to not hate the game. So if I say, well, you know what, you can get one more energy, all you got to do is play Festival of the Lost for 50 hours. You're going to hate this game. Okay. And so I'm trying to help you all. I'm trying to help everybody except for Gleaux and E, who I don't care about. That's it. Okay. And that's my prerogative. You guys will be fine. You're making money on YouTube off of this game. You're going to be okay. All right. I'm worried about the Travises of the world. Very self-servedly, by the way.
Anyway, Travis,
I would like to see a step back from the idea that like having things makes you powerful, and more in a direction of like using them correctly makes you powerful. And what I mean by that is like, does the armor need more energy slots, or do we need more ways to build craft to utilize the space it already has, to where the skill gap between a new player who doesn't really know how these things interact and a player who is more experienced can make more use of that 10 energy just by their game knowledge? And to me, like, I think that's the direction I would like to see us go more, instead of just, throwing more power creep into the area, I guess.
No, I mean, I agree, honestly. No, I was just going to say, is like, I mean, when it comes to armor, a rework would honestly be, is like, I wish some things in the game just worked like if you had the mods on them in the first place. For ammo is probably my biggest gripe. Why it feels like I could literally put on a reserve armor, hit a rally flag, so then I start the encounter with more heavy ammo and then switch before it starts. Scavengers and ammo finders, just fix the ammo economy. Like, have a reliable way for heavy to drop. Don't make us rely on Aeons and doing finishers on one type of guy, so I can make sure I've got some heavy ammo, as opposed to just like, don't have the heavy ammo economy actually suck. So then you're literally taking up those things. And then as Gleaux is saying, then you can lean into things like maybe dexterity or more energy into some of these like charge with light builds, because you're not trying to use some to make sure you have like random heavy ammo dropping. Like there are some of those mods that I feel are totally useless, and there's some of that stuff they're going to work on, but it's just, I would like to see, again, with Lightfall, just some of that, like, I don't expect an Armor 3.0 anymore, kind of given up on that one.
Uh-oh.
I just have, like, it's just bound to be there, or bound not to be there. Because I don't know what they would do with it at this point. It feels like it'd be too big of an ask. But if they could do something like that, polish up the mods, and as Gleaux is saying, let the high thinker like Gleaux come up with this unique stuff, but he needs a little do what?
It's debatable, but go on.
Yeah, listen to your video. There's some thought in there. But yeah, get rid of some of the useless ones and let you be able to like play with that 10 energy in a way where you can be a little more creative. And again, I don't know if it was somebody last week. What if it's just like 4 slots? They're not tied to like this one's for your stats and this one's for your combat mods. Yeah, what if it's just like 10 energy and you have 4 slots and you can just pick? Can you imagine the stuff that people would come up with?
Yeah, they're very specific with those slots.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that little flexibility there, and you would have a lot more fun with the same tools, I think.
Definitely. I think the weapon type mods are like unnecessary complexity at this point. Just make weapons have default load speeds or dexterity. Like make everything like balanced in the sandbox how you see fit, and get rid of all that crap, because it just creates barriers for new players to have to go get those mods if they want to compete on the same level. It takes up energy when you could be using the much more interesting combat style mods, or like I don't know if they're all classified under that, but that system needs to be leaned into more, and we need to lean away from the like hand cannon loader or like reserve mod. Like to me, that's all just so unnecessarily complex.
Today I learned Gleaux is a man of the people. I approve of this man.
Yeah.
This is one of the few streamers we have on that I'm like, yeah, this guy gets it. He's not.
I think I have a vested interest in the health of the game, right? And I think like these kinds of things make a healthy game whenever you're more accommodating to new players. And I try to be empathetic as much as I can to, the experience that they're having, and not just trying to like, I guess, pontificate from my experience as a player who plays 80
we
hours
got
a
to
week
the same place by using opposite methods. You're doing a top-down empathy model. I'm doing a bottom-down vindictive model. Of, I just don't.
I don't know if you can go down from the bottom. I think you got to look up, sir. Anyway, but before we go,
it's the same though, right? Like,
no, I'm digging. You can look from the bottom. You just look down and you dig. Yeah,
just keep digging. Anyway, before we go, a couple minutes left to wrap this one up. I wanted to ask you, Gleaux, if you could change anything about Destiny outside of the ranked playlist, because we covered that. If you could change 1 or 2 things about that, what would you change? What is your favorite cocktail, if you have one? If not, just beverage. And then favorite sandwich. Any order you want to answer those 3.
Okay. My favorite cocktail is gin and tonic.
Okay.
Nice, classic.
The way Sinatra drank it, not the martini with vodka.
Okay.
Favorite sandwich? Was that the other one?
Yep.
I'm a simple man. I like a good, like turkey, pepper jack. Nothing overly done, I think.
No condiments?
No, I like it plain. Maybe a po' boy, if I can keep it kind of po' boy. Think how po' boys and sandwiches.
Yeah. Okay.
And now for
he's eating a dry turkey sandwich too. He chose turkey, the driest meat, and he's not putting anything on it. This dude's just cotton mouthing all day.
Okay. First of all, I don't know what kind of turkey you have, but like the turkey I eat at Thanksgiving is nice and juicy the next day after.
This comes back to my original argument. If the ingredients, if the ingredients in the sandwich are quality, you don't need to cover it in a lot of crap. Stop saying bro.
Yeah.
You are not going to convince anybody that turkey has a proper way to be cooked. It is a rubbish bird. It is always dry. It is super overrated.
Then the peoples whose Thanksgiving you've gone to suck at cooking turkey.
First of all, I've never been to a Thanksgiving. I don't have a family. You know that. Low blow. Second of all, turkey is still gross. All right? It doesn't change anything.
Okay, I will say turkey is generally overrated. I'm not going to argue, but
it's dry.
No, if
Yes.
you cook it, I may not love turkey, but I can tell you, if you
Bro.
cook it right, there are ways to cook turkey so it's not
You
dry.
You are a jive turkey, is what I'm learning from this conversation.
Jive turkey.
You
Anyway.
sure are.
So thank you, Gleaux, for proving my point occasionally. Anyway,
He's got a brother dog.
Destiny 2, give me your 1 or 2 dream fixes you would do.
Yeah,
If we didn't cover them already.
Again, like King for the day, no thought and time is infinite. I would like to see a return to the double primary system in a world where
We got to get him off the show now. Damn, I was like him.
You were doing so good.
Dude, I was like, that's my brother. Then he said the double. Come on, Gleaux.
I think year one was poorly received, not because of the double primary system, but because of the time to kill and because of the bullet soaking up, bullet sponge nature of the enemies. I think there's a world where it works, and I think it ultimately was more healthy for the game long term in PvP, which is something I care a lot about. The PvP side of the game, again, I'm king for the day, so they can get fucked.
Respect, I respect it.
But yeah, that's something I would like to see. I would like to experience a world where we have the current TTKs of the game, but the double primary system. I think it'd be really good.
Oh,
Coming from a guy who literally like went to I was like, oh, freelance is, I was like, I enjoyed this match of Trials because I was making a video why freelance should be permanent. And I literally went in and I played a match and I was like, this is amazing. Like literally making the video, I queued up and I was like, it's all solos in here. It was 3, like no stack of anything. And then one of the main comments that was on there is like, there's no way you're ever going to win Trials with 2 primaries. I was like, really? Calling out my loadout? I never said I was good, but what the hell?
yeah, that is what it is.
I like a
That is what
pulse and like an SMG. That's what I've been kind of doing.
Oh, that's what I'm rocking. That's literally what I'm rocking.
It's a good loadout, especially like no time SMG is extremely
Mhm.
strong.
I like my
Ooh,
Insidious, but I just like my 4 burst. If
Insidious low key. I've been using it in
I was
PvP.
like, I'm sure it's not elite, but I was like, I like how that one feels for me.
I like how, I've been using that in submission, and I've been submissions tearing people up. Like, yeah, I agree. Because I feel that the way they've balanced shotguns and fusion. Well, fusions are still a little. Fusions a little bit.
Fusions are a little hot.
Yeah,
Little
it's still
hot,
a little hot. So they be catching me from vooping me from down the block sometimes.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
damn. You know what I'm saying? But shotties, I feel, have finally SMGs are in that space. Like, you're not gonna just come down here and ape and think that's how that's gonna go. You're gonna get lit up. Well,
Watch me.
if
You know how I do it?
What do you do?
I put on those Antaeus wards. I wait until you start
you
firing. I hit you with 6 or 7 of your own bullets, and then I shoot you with a shotgun
Dirty.
from far away at a range that normally wouldn't kill you, but it does kill you because you hurt yourself.
Gleaux, give me
Submachine gun
give
counter.
me the tips to the Shadebinder build. I'm trying to put on
Apes
that
together
fragment.
strong.
Go
Put
watch
that
his
fragment
video.
on
He did a full
freeze the
video
ape,
on
right?
it.
Give me a freeze the ape build, and I'm gonna get back to him.
All you got to do, man, is learn the timing. I
Ooh.
freeze people just as soon as they're coming around the corner because I'm reading the radar. And I'm not even waiting for them to push me. I'm freezing them right as they turn the
You
corner.
preemptively freeze it.
Yeah, and when you deal with Antaeus apes like Travis, which I
How I
encountered
handle
quite a-
him. Yeah,
You, all you have to do is you freeze the ground, not them. And the AOE of the Penumbral Blast freezes them.
It's true.
Yeah.
It is an effective counter.
I really gotta use Shade. You know what it is?
I'm gonna. Whoa, let's 1v1 after this. What are you doing? I don't know.
We
I wish I
got to
did.
record something else. So
We
anyway,
gotta go. Anyway, we gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Well, yeah, that definitely is a nice hot take for the end. So as this is a good place to wrap it up, I wanted to open the floor to you to tell people who listen to this, and if you all don't, please go follow this man everywhere. But now's the time for you to tell them where to do that. Where can they find all of your stuff?
Sure. I'm the same everywhere. Gleaux. It's GLEAUX. On
It's a
Twitter,
great spelling,
Twitch,
by the way.
YouTube. Thank you. I stream not every day, but fairly regularly, and I've been uploading pretty much every day to YouTube, so you can find me there. And I'm always on Twitter yelling about absurd things and getting in arguments.
Just starting fires and walking away, so it's fine.
Yes.
Yep.
Throwing a grenade. What is it? Drewski calls you the bad take guy.
The king of bad takes, crowned by Drewski himself.
Listen, man, you outside. I love the thought process, the logical approach. The content is really informative. Love the little storyboard kind of things that you're doing. It's really
Thank
cool.
you.
Microsoft
You know?
Paint specialty right there. Love it.
Yes. Love that. And of course,
Someone told me I was bad at editing videos, and I went, you know what? I could get worse. And here we are.
And here we are. Now you do your thing, brother. Long overdue. Ton of fun. Good to have you there, Warlock brethren. Looking forward to more content, man. Keep it up, man.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, guys. This has been a blast.
Absolutely.
No doubt. No doubt. No
It
doubt.
is our pleasure. Gentlemen, quick wrap ups.
Yeah, man.
Travis,
Trav,
what do you got? What do you got
Yeah,
cooking next after another 100-hour game?
Yeah. So read my review of Grounded, please. It's a fantastic game. You should play it. I've also got a video going up tomorrow. 11 tips of things I wish I knew before I started playing Grounded.
Nice.
So if you're going to jump
Ooh.
in or considering it, I have some really awesome pro tips. I think a lot of
You had to
people
do
don't know
11
about.
to one up Tassie's 10 things he knew, right?
I had to do 11 because for some reason, odd numbered lists do better than even numbered lists.
Really?
There's a
Oh,
little
really?
by a lot. It's like by like 26 or 27%. So there you go. No idea why that's a thing. The
internet is
and then
weird.
coming up, I've got a couple reviews. I think I can talk about my next one because the game's already out. It's Slime Rancher 2, which it's been out for a while, but we haven't been able to get a reviewer on it, so they're putting me on it since I'm done with Grounded. And then I've got a bunch of other content coming out. A preview of a game that hasn't been announced is going live on Monday, and some other stuff. So IGN.com, follow me on Twitter at TagGuyTravis. Love you guys. Love Destiny. See you next week.
Cog?
Yeah, man. Shout out to Gleaux for coming through. Same old deal with me. IOP will be this Sunday, the Lord's Day, talking about all the craziness in the games industry. And then if you want that defining Duke, check out my man, me and Mr. Matty Plays. We talked about the return of E3, the pros and cons of it on Defining Duke Ultimate. We talked about everything that's going on right now. Obviously, Grounded was a big discussion point in the community. And yeah, man, also support lordsofgaming.net. Go check that out. See what's going on there. And other than that, just playing these games and getting over not getting collective obligation. I'm still hurting about that.
How many clears did you guys put in?
Bro, shout out to Ducky, shout out to Black Iron Man, shout out to Sid. They was in there with me.
Are you just doing like Rolk over and over and over and over?
Rolk over and over, roking it out, man. We were roped out. And Roke wasn't trying to hear it. And all I want to do, Gleaux, is I just want to try the Void 3.0 build with the buffs. You know what I'm saying? With the suppression. I just want to try because I'm a Void.
Travis, we need to remember this moment.
Yeah.
When he has this, no, I feel like the RNG thing is great because now you've got your moment with your Eyes of Tomorrow, and now he's finally got his.
But I will say this. Shout out to my
I also know with Anarchy and the Exotic. I hate the RNG. It shouldn't be a thing. There should be a way to force it. But yeah.
Shout out to my man Black Iron Man because he loves Val so much. He runs it and he never got it. And I was like, bro, if you get it, I won't be mad anymore because I know how much he runs that way. He got it.
Nice,
I was happy for the crew. So salute to them.
Yeah, for me, basically, I am going to be gone next week. But I'm basically going to be putting up some Lost Sector guides because it's one of the few things I can actually schedule. So I'll give you guys some exotic farming if that's something you guys want to do. So check out the channel there for me. Hopefully I'm able to actually get on the cruise ship on Saturday. So if I can make it there and onto the boat, hopefully flights and hurricanes all get dodged, then we will be lucky. Our goal is actually after this episode, we're going to go offline and record just kind of a bonus episode for you guys for next week. So we will plan for that thing to be uploaded at that time, basically next week. So usual time, and then that thing just will publish on Thursday night, kind of when the podcast is. So no live show next week, just a pre-recorded kind of an off the beat one. So look forward to that one. But other than that, Gleaux, thank you so much for your time. Nice to have a good level head on the show, kind of empathetic to both sides of the argument. It's nice to see. But it was
you on Twitter, man.
Oh, that's big. That's huge. That's huge.
No,
it's true. I don't follow anybody on Twitter.
I don't do that.
Well, thank you guys.
Again, been a blast.
Absolutely. Well, for this episode, number 217, September 29th, we will see you guys in about 2 weeks for the next live show. But for this episode, it has been
the last word.
The last word.
Man, it was quick on the trigger.